Hey everybody, and welcome to the UD6 Last Chance Tournament. How are you doing, Mythical?
Is Twin, thanks for asking. We've got a ton of players competing today who are big names up on the leaderboard. Some familiar if you've been watching, some who definitely won't be.
Yeah, it's been a long process. UD has been running for the past 5 months now, and some names have been around, and some other we haven't seen quite yet. We are at the exact end of the process of selecting the best players for the grand finals. We've had 3 big tourneys during the months of July, August and September, and today's is the last chance tournament, meaning this is the very final chance anyone could have to qualify to the grand final. We will actually, even if it says right now on screen top 2, we will qualify the top 4 because we've had an interesting run and an interesting UD, and it would be like a better run for the grand finals to actually have 10 runners, so like everybody can take that as a better chance to qualify maybe. Yeah, everybody today is invited, whatever their skill level, whatever the practice they've put on, even if the runners are just there today for 1 game or for the full 10, whatever their goal is. We are going to have a lot of different profiles, but top 4 of the best overall runners will qualify for the grand finals.
Man, we're seeing it, looking at it, and realizing that this is the final month of the whole UD6 season. We started way back in April, and we're really getting down to it now. This is the last chance for grand finals. The weekend is going to be the grand finals. Players are going to compete and win the lovely prize. Those who get into the top 4, the prize of competing live in France in the Ultimate Finals. That's going to be towards the end of the month. It's going to be pretty awesome, and I can't wait, and I'm sure the players can't wait. October, perfect month, as everything gets scarier. So for all the players competing today, it's going to be pretty scary. There's some really big names floating around out there. Some of them have been racing before in past UD tournaments this season. All of them, I think, have been racing in past UD tournaments in past seasons. So in that sense, they are very much veterans, but I don't know if all of them will be as sharp as they could be, having not raced in this season. So I don't know if that's the kind of thing that will play an important role.
Yeah, it's to be seen. For sure, we are all waiting for Ghost's big comeback. They've been failing right at the edge of the qualification during both the August tournament and the September tournament. Their performances have impressed everybody, I'm sure, and they're the only runner that's totally new to the UD. They've joined in like during the months of April, and it's going to be just great to see how well they're performing today. But they're not the only runner, obviously. We have 15 runners with, once again, various goals. Some are just going to be there for a couple of games and hope to snag the first place on those. Some other will just want to be able to beat the 10 game and trying to get around like maybe 1,000, 1,020 and 200 points, and some other like Super Lingard, Mel West, Ghost Death, Zigwigwi are going to aim for 1,700 and above. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how everything turns out.
We can see Little Mai from a big name from season 5, Sailing to Mars, was in some of our tournaments throughout the season. We got top 8. At least in the September tournament. Barumond is a runner who's been fantastic in multiple UD seasons, but we haven't seen too much of this season. Vandal, I know more from someone who hangs out in the Mumble and the admin Discord. Think of him more as an organizer than a player, but most of the organizers here are also pretty good speedrunners in their own right. And of course, Mel West competed in the July tournament, had a couple games that were kind of his downfall, missed the top 2 a little bit, and is one of the most fearsome players on the leaderboard right now. He's currently sitting on the top with like a 50-point gap between him and second place and Brother Main. So has huge grind times, number one with a bullet, and able to race well most of the time. So is a huge threat today.
Yeah, it's probably going to be. It's like a double-edged sword. When you have so good PBs, either you perform very, very well, or you have like some hiccups and you struggle like landing back on your feet. That's what happened back in July, but it was less experimented than it is today. So probably going to aim for first or second place. Someone else going to for first or second place, Super Lingard, very confident. I asked him right before the stream what score he was aiming for. Answered a confident 1800 to 1900. So that's going to be like a huge hit if they perform as well as they expect. Very few weaknesses. PB wise, the race times are actually quite old, as they haven't raced too much in the past tourneys, but still performing very, very well. We'll see if they worked a little bit more on Cuphead, Eye of Sorrow, and The End is Nigh, but I do expect them to do fantastic today.
Yeah, these race times are a lie, I think, basically. There are some players who did well early in the season and then took a sort of an extended break. I was taking a look at Devil Tifa and his Bs, or lack thereof, since he qualified back in July. Times have been pretty much stagnant for him, but that doesn't mean these players aren't, practicing and keeping sharp. Here's Barumanda, who is 6th on the leaderboard in grind, but way far back in race. Hasn't competed in many races. You can see just no times at all so far in Inertia or Metal Slug, but is an extremely fast speedrunner. So we'll see if this Shovel Knight time is able to come down below that hour 10-minute mark. I'm sure it will. But without finishing races of some of these games, it's probably something you're going to be at least a little bit worried about. You do finally start to compete in your first race for these games.
Yeah, that's what scares me the most about a lot of those players, in that U6 is very long. It's very, very difficult. A lot of those games are super punishing. Like, if you die too much on DKC, you cannot finish the game. If you die in Shovel Knight, you will probably not finish under like the 65-minute cutoff. Metal Slug, you will lose a ton of time. Eye of Sorrow, you have like big difficulty spikes. So we'll see. Ghostdeath has put on the leaderboard recently a lot of new PBs. I'm not even sure if that player card is actually up to date right now. They've been doing great on Shovel Knight, practicing a little bit on Eye of Sorrow, cut the 200-point mark on Trials. They are super consistent on Spectrable, very good Cuphead as well. So we'll see. They're currently sitting on the 8th place on the leaderboard, but do remember that 6 runners are already qualified. Brother Main, Double Tifa, Cute Shadow, Skunkoff, Fireman, and a Quick. So those don't count, and that actually like shrinks down the leaderboard to our best 4, as you can see on screen right now. So we'll see how well they're doing, and we are splitting the 10 games in 2 halves. So first is going to be Cuphead, A Story About My Uncle, Metal Slug, Inertia, Shovel Knight for today, and starting tomorrow at the same time, 11 AM EDT, we're going to have The End is Nigh, Trials 2, DKC, Spectrable, and Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. The scores of those 10 games are going to be combined for one final score. It's going to range between like, I don't know, 1600 to 1900 for the top 4, it would be my guess. That's a rather large scope, but that's probably what's going to happen. And I'm going to gift a sub to the Speed Gaming channel to whoever get the closest guess to the 4th place final score. So we'll see whatever happens. If you want to join in, just type a score, 4 numbers in chat. Probably 4 would be my guess, but less than 2000.
Yep. Even if you've just time watching, go ahead and type a number between those ranges. He said 1600, 1900. and that'll give yourself a chance. 1900, pretty optimistic considering we're talking about the fourth place finisher. I could see a first place finisher with as talented as these runners are, getting up towards 1900. Mostly Mel West, I think. Super Link God also got a pretty good shot at it. It feels confident enough to say that it's something he's aiming for. But I don't know. I don't know if players are going to get up to 1900 all the way down to fourth place. Go ahead and type in a number and we'll see. We've got Cuphead. You just saw the lovely artwork for Cuphead in that trailer, and I wonder how much spread we're going to see. It was nothing but roundabout in the September tournament rather. Kind of a shift, basically. We started, everyone was spread, and then people were like, well, roundabout's a little safer, and then people were like, actually, roundabout's a little faster, and we just saw the shift in mindset over to roundabout. But now we're dealing with players who haven't been maybe necessarily keeping up with these kinds of shifts. You know, they raced back in May or June or whatever, and now they're coming back here in August, so you might see some old spread boys to play.
Okay, race is going to start, so we are going to follow on screen mainly Melwest, Super Lingot, Barramundo, and Ghostdeath, but we have everybody racing at the same time, so it's going to be pretty great. We'll see how well they perform. Once again, Cuphead is run in-game time, so there might be a small discrepancy between like the timer you've seen on the player feed on the bottom right corner and the actual like real time passing by. But we start with the tutorial, weirdly enough, but because you can skip those, but it's actually worse to do.
That's right, that's the coin there at the end. Many players have now picked up, is going to be added with the coins from this guy on the bridge to purchase our sub-weapon that we're going to be using for most of the run. Depending on what you pick up, you will maybe want to switch to your pea shooter in a couple situations, but for the most part, you will be using this sub-weapons choice to make. And we do have a lot of runners on screen, but we will shortly condense it down to a little more watchable for players. Also, don't worry about Sailing to Mars. I'm sure that they are playing. It's just a stream issue, and as we can see, that is true now. So we're seeing some spread here. Mel West, top of the leaderboard, is rocking the spread shot, and Barramundo as well. Ghostdeath, we know, has switched to, or he learned roundabout to begin with, having come into the season as late as he did. So we're going to see that roundabout super yo-yoing back and forth, going to be jumping over it and under it. Make sure that you don't touch it, that you keep it going and getting those extra hits, whereas the spread guys are going to be looking mostly to get inside enemy hitboxes before they use their spread. Very hard to hit with every projectile of the spread super, and very important if you want to actually get your bang for your buck out of it.
Yeah, this is the biggest difficulty using the roundabout. The spread shot is all about connecting your shots to the enemy hitbox, and for the roundabout is the correct use of the supers. The roundabout is safer because you are not going to take intentional hits to use your super, but it's very, very hard to get sub 19 with the roundabout. I would say it's easier with the spread, but it's not an easy speedrun whatsoever. So, starting with Ribu and Croak, second boss in the game, we have 5 bosses per island, and this is the any percent in the simple difficulty, so we are not going to see the final bosses. It's all about just reaching the final world.
Mel West went for some spread supers, 2 hits, and still had quite a ways to go, so actually did have to nail it over the first run that comes by. Not sure if it's Ribby or Croaks, but either way, he does get the knockout. He is currently in first, though it can be a little hard to tell. Again, keep your eye on the timers. They will be synced to the player's in-game time, and that's what we will be using to determine the winner, not whoever has fastest PC. But I'm pretty sure Mel West is indeed in the lead after 2 bosses, Super Link God, just into Barramundo as well, and Ghostdeath. So pretty close still, which is to be expected this early on. For just 2 bosses in, Mel West actually has a kind of a surprising bit of a lead here.
Yeah, this is great for them. Good start, getting a lot of shots to connect on Goupil ground right now, and this is a very fun boss to watch. You are with the spread shot just trying to follow them around and getting as close as possible to get all your 5 shots to connect all the time. It's only a Ghostess that's using the roundabout actually, and they're using a very different strat, as you can see, using the super to connect as much as possible, and the fight is a little bit slower. Melwest is already done.
He's looking really strong. Cuphead was something that him and a couple other players who were extremely strong died at least once in a notable Cuphead run for a tournament. So it can, even to the back, West looking to take it very early on in Cuphead. Still early in this race, still very early in this tournament, but for now that's where things stand. Things still quite close between Super Link God, Ghost Death, Armando. Not sure how the timers shake out between the 3 of them, but it does look like Ghost Death is ahead, at least by about 4 or 5 seconds ahead of Barramondo, and is probably pretty close with Super Link God. Melwest going for the super on... oh boy, I forgot the name, but I got it here somewhere. Hildeberg is the name. That's a pretty aggressive strat. We have seen players shy away from that.
Yeah, usually the runners go for only 1, because on the bottom left corner you can see the HP of the runners right now, and yeah, Melwest goes away from the second charge here. That's where you usually want to take an intentional hit and get your missile to connect multiple times, but it's risky, and it's pretty usual to take just a little hit from anything that's on screen. Cuphead's screens are filled with enemies and projectiles, and everything will instantly kill you if you don't have extra HP. So, but that paid off for Melwest, going safe and strong at 5 minutes and 8 seconds, killing Hildeberg barely in under 1 minute, which is exactly what you want. But everybody else is on Hildeberg right now. Zigwigwi, Vandal, Cylinder Morse, and LF are going strong. Super Lingard using his Super EX. Ghost Death already done with the boss. Bermondo using his Super EX right now, so is LF. It's super close between all the players.
I fully expect to see you like knockout. Yeah, here we go. There's 1 from Super Link God, 2 from LF. I'm sure there's more to come, but for now we'll go back to our focused 4 players. Melwest is going to be the first one to reach Cagney Carnation. He's got the spread instead of the roundabout. Most of the players of these 4 have the spread, so this will see if Ghost Death can make up a bit of ground. It's much easier to use the roundabout both to hit Cagney Carnation as well as the roundabout super, because the spread super is really not going to do much for Melwest is using the P shooter supers. A little harder. It's the inputs for it. You've got to switch back kind of thing. So it's also easier in that regards for Ghost Death. But Melwest had no problems. He's going to be the first one out of this fight, as the fight is just starting for some of the other players.
Yeah, 40 seconds in-game time. I'm going to look in what the time for Ghost Death is. All the roundabout craze started with Cagney Carnation. That's where it saved the most time, and surely enough, Ghost Death saved 4 seconds over Melwest on that single boss. And it's a lot on Cuphead. Cuphead is a very simple category. It's a very short speedrun. You have a lot of cutscenes, lots of stuff you cannot skip. And Super Lingard died on Cagney Carnation. That's not very usual to see a death on the first island. If it had to happen, would be on that boss. But usually the first death happens on Baroness von Bunbun. That's Melwest is starting with right now.
I think we have seen Cagney Carnation get some players. I think it might have been the one like Melwest in that tournament I was talking about before. There's just something about this fight that you're not able to land all your hits a lot of the time. So I wonder if there's like a building frustration that you're losing time that gets the better of players towards the end of the fight. I don't know what it is about it. It has gotten the better of Super Link God. He's also going to spread super there, so he's hopefully not a little rolled or anything. He does get the kill second time around, as Melwest is getting ready some spread supers on Baroness von Bonbon, getting very aggressive. It is not easy to these supers while not taking any damage, but he knows he can take last hit because the boss is now dead.
Very, very nice fight, very aggressive, very successful. Melwest takes the lead by a huge margin here, spending only 52 seconds on the Baroness von Bonbon. And everybody apparently is using the new route. The runners used to go with Beppy the Clown first, and then go Jimmy, Baroness von Bonbon, and then Wally Wobbles, and finish with the Grim Matchstick. But turns out that's exactly what Super Lingard is going to do. But turns out you can save a very, very little amount of time going another way around. The time you save is just due to movement in the overall world.
Normally, players would be a little hesitant to switch strats this late into the season. All the boss fights are exactly the same. You're not getting one boss's Mega Man style and bring it into the next one. So it is a pretty small change just to swap the order in which you walk to other places. So it is something that we saw, one figured out. We saw one person, another person, and then everyone was like, why not? It's a free little bit of time for very minimal invest. So we have seen players do that. Clown going into the third phase, rather, as Melwest is almost done. Wally Warbles, he's on the last phase.
Yes, 3
Keep
HP,
close.
no problem.
Yeah, there we go.
So we see a lot of good players on Cuphead right now. Melwest, Ghostdeath, and Super Lingard have the best Cuphead of the bunch, but Bermondo is actually behind Zigwiwi and Sebi. So maybe we have like some other runners actually in the back of the players we are seeing right now. Yesterday, Ghostdeath was expecting to be first or second after Cuphead. They've practiced a lot and they wanted to build confidence after the first game, because if you see yourself maybe on the 4th or 5th place, you are, it's hard for the to keep on going. Especially when you are aiming so high. So I do hope they succeed in that regard. But a lot of players are on Jimmy the Great, Vandal, Cylinder Mars, and Melwest. The Super Lingard starting right now, but do remember that the players might use different routes.
Yeah, it will be. I feel like they might be on the same routes. After they pulled ahead of Ghostdeath, which I don't know. Ghostdeath's been playing very well, getting some very good times in some of these boss fights. So I'm honestly not sure what route these players are on. Barramundo is just now wrapping up the first phase of Wally Warbles, immediately opening up with Super on the second phase. So we'll see if he's able to close it out with all that HP. I bet he will be, airing off one of those extra Super he built up, charging another one just for the heck of it. Wide dodge when used to parry. Melwest now last phase of Jimmy Great, still ahead by a fair margin over some of these other plays, and it looks like that's going to continue. He's got an EX Super here, and he's getting nice and close to use it, and then just a little bit more to close this out.
Jimmy the Great might be the easiest of the second island of the bosses, but it gets runners sometimes. If you're not paying super close attention, you might find yourself trapped. Super Lingard and Ghostdeath super synced right now, but Super Lingard is one entire boss behind actually due to round differences. They died on Keg Incarnation, and that's actually going to matter a lot. Berramundo, about an entire boss fight behind Ghostdeath, is just starting right now, Jimmy the Great, and Melwest is on Beppy the Clown, one of the bosses where the spread shot is going to shine.
Yeah, and we actually saw Melwest doing some weapon switching because there's a bit of randomness, and Beppy goes with this bumper car. If he sticks close, the spread's going to be great. If he gets too far, it's not going to do anything at all. So you do want to try to follow behind and get your spread shots, but if he goes too far and want to run up to him as he's about to bump into you, then switching key shooter is a pretty good idea. Melwest moving on to the last phase of the fight now, and he's got a lot of supers charged up here. He takes a hit, and it looks like this is intent. He's just letting loose with the full spread damage, and I predict he's just going to go with supers now to the fight, and that probably will be enough. He is going to need a little more. There it is. Gets the knockout.
Yeah, they played safe, trying to dodge those shots, because it's pretty easy to die on Beppy the Clown, and dying is on Cuphead is probably one of the worst places you could die on in the entire UD, because it's so straightforward. It's just like almost auto scrollers if you are doing like the correct inputs, and you don't want to die. It will cost in the end a lot to Super Lingard. They're probably going to end up to the 4th or 5th place when they were probably expecting to be on top 3, and yeah, that's awful. So playing safe is totally understandable. And Melwest is starting the Grim Matchstick, one of the bosses, once again, where the roundabout is going to shine, because it's pretty hard to hit them. You have to get super close, and first phase is not too bad, but second phase is hell incarnate.
Yes, roundabout really shines in the second phase for a couple of reasons. Like you're probably not going to be able to use much of the fight close, because you constantly need to be moving away from Grim Matchstick in order to not get hit by it, because the clouds are now going the opposite way. Also, while you were running away with your roundabout, wow, just getting supers in. I don't think I've ever seen the second phase of Grim Matchstick go by so quickly.
Making us lie right now.
Wow. 45 seconds. Yeah, make it look really simple. But normally there's some time running around on the cloud away from Grim Matchstick, and while you've got the roundabout, those shots will eventually curl around and connect. You're not losing any damage when you are facing away from Grim Matchstick when you've got that roundabout, so that will be an advantage for Ghost Death here. Not much of an advantage, because Melwest took that away with a fantastic second phase. Just about ready here.
Nice.
Roundabout supers, which are pretty hard to do while fell, but either way, he gets the kill. Barramondo, 1 hit left on Beppy. He's got a lot of supers left, and he's choosing to play it pretty close with the spread shot for now, and he does get the knockout.
Yeah, knowing pretty much exactly where the boss's HP is at is a very good skill to have, very useful in Cuphead. We've seen, like, just right now, Gazdes almost taking the final hit on the Grim Matchstick, but the Grim Matchstick died right before, and Barramondo doing the same thing, like having a good understanding on how the fight is going is very important. So Gazdes is starting Honey Bottom right now. Melwest is already on the 3rd phase. This is going great for them. They're not stopping for anything, beating the boss at 1440. So that's about 22 or 25 seconds ahead of Gazdes if they don't die, but Gazdes having full HP and knowing very well the game, I do not expect them to fail on that specific boss.
Yeah, stage play conduct has got some players the easier fights, especially given how late it is into the run. So it's kind of a almost a victory lap, a little bit for some players. We'll see how the players handle it. We can see now LF also on Grim Matchstick, and we see Vandal dies to Wally Warbles. That's not what you want. If you're gonna die, you at least want it to happen when you're not on stream, unfortunately. So doubly unfortunate for him. Barramondo getting the knockout on Grim Matchstick. Super Link God looking for his and gets it as Melwest starts the almost finishes the 1st phase of Sally's to play.
I wonder how practiced is Barramondo on Cuphead specifically. I know Barramondo would rather like grind a game, practice the game, and never touch it again once they're done with the game, so that's why they don't do too many tournaments, but today is like the final round for all the runners, so they wanted to join in for the fun. But maybe it's been a while since they've done any Cuphead runs, so that's why they're tied with Super Lingard, even though Super Lingard died once. Melwest being super aggressive, killing the Sally stage play right before the waves comes in. That's pretty rare sight, and 52 seconds there, they're going to enter the Phantom Express first, and this is a very, very impressive run.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious what kind of time we're going to see from Melwest, just for, PB purposes, or getting close to it at least. Maybe probably the fastest race time we've seen in this game far. Ghost Death second. I feel pretty good on this fight. There's a lot of moving left and right to dodge her attacks, and so your roundabout will connect. Spread is better on this final phase, though, so Even if it takes a little bit longer, he is still going to have trouble getting the knockout on Sally's stage. Maybe we got Honeybottom for both Super Link God and Barromondo. Super Link God died to Keg Incarnation, but is making up ground bit by bit on each of these boss fights, whereas Mondo's just been playing a little more safer, a little more consistent, and is losing ground to Super Link God on each boss by just a little bit, and they are still jumping up to get those super shots, and then the diagonals, and this fight is much nice, getting pretty aggressive at the end, finishing the boss at 17:28 or so. See what that final time ends up being.
So best UD6 race time was by the Ultifa with an 18:10. So for reference, the world record is at 16:46 by SBD Wolf, and like 2C Plus I've seen in chat is at 18:08. So that's going to be a very good time. Sub 18 is an incredible run, and that's going to set in them just for high confidence and doing like very well for the rest of the tourney, probably, because that's going to ramp up a lot of points at 6 seconds per point. That's going to make a big difference with all the runners, but not with Ghost Death, because they're finishing the Phantom Express right now. Their PB is at 18:21, and they're not going to be too far behind, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be something like an 18:41 or something like that, with the last sprint to the Dice Palace is what I call it, but that's from Star Heroes. That's totally different, but close enough. We got Super Link God out the final phase of Sally's stage, just behind Barum, very close to each other throughout this race ever since a little bit past Keg Incarnation. We've got LF on screen now, subbed in for Mel West. He finished so fast, we've had time to swap in. Meanwhile, Ghost Death has gone ahead and finished. Very solid time, making, it might seem a little less solid just because of the fantastic, best race time we've ever seen from Mel West. Do realize that Ghost is actually dang good in Cuphead. He's going to feel pretty good about that. We got some Phantom Express fights now from Super Link God and Baramon.
So yeah, this is the simple current patch category. So you've been noticing we are missing on every single boss fight the final phase, and we don't do the King Dice nor the Devil because they're not available in that specific category. This is a short and simple category. This is a good starter for the UD. UD is a 10-game long speedrunning process, and it's actually pretty good for the runner to have a couple of simple games, and this is still a long game relatively speaking to some other very short ones. And learning Cuphead and doing what you're seeing right now on screen actually takes a lot of practice. So we're seeing LF almost done with the Phantom Express, as Bermundo and Super Link God finished right now. Bermundo is going to finish a couple of seconds before Super Link God, and with time around the 20-30, they're not going to be the most happy runner in the UD, but it's actually still okay. You really want to be there sub 23, sub 22, but assuring sub 20 on or sub 19 during the race is actually very difficult.
PB of 19 minutes for Baromondo, so finishing quite a ways off of that in this race. Maybe it was just some race nerves, been away from the game for a long time, not sure. I'm not sure if he's going to be all that happy about his first run of the Last Chance tournament here in October. We've got Guigui, who finished outside of the top 2 in the September tournament, and getting close finish. He is now approaching the Phantom Express 2022 on his timer right now. He is going to be fixed to get under that 22-minute mark, but probably he was hoping to do a little bit better this run, starting the first phase. Vandal now onto the first phase of Sally's stage play. He's a roundabout, as does Guigui, so it will be a little bit easier for Vandal on Sally's stage play here, but about is pretty tricky to use on the Phantom Express.
Yeah, the spread shot is pretty great, especially on the third phase, because the head of the boss, the heads don't have a hitbox, so you can really go into them and use your super. But the spread shot is going to be all about those diagonal shots and trying to have them to connect as best as you can. And thankfully, in simple, the bosses don't have too big of a HP bar, so it should be okay. It's going to be about 24 finish time for Zigwigwi. They were in the September tourney. It was probably one of the best tournaments we've done ever on the UD, because it was super close. No one knew exactly who would qualify in the end, and it got super tense at the end of the weekend 2 weeks ago, so it was pretty great. And obviously we are all expecting the runners that were there, except for Fireman and Cowpip that qualified already, to do as well as they've done 2 weeks ago.
Ghost Death definitely playing at that level. Zigwigwi not so good on Cuphead, but has other games where they're quite strong. So we'll see if they're able to pick it up in some of those other games that we'll be playing for just Vandal. On the phase of the Phantom Express, maybe our last finish, I'm not sure. Also has the roundabout, and the second phase is really nothing much on in the second phase. That's and it can be pretty hard to find your roundabout shots, especially if you're trying to go from Vandal's missing all kinds of shots here. I'm not even sure what he's going for, but now with some supers, he is going to be able to finally get some hits to get aggressive, getting inside the lightning, and finally gets the knockout.
Yeah, this fight is an interesting one. It's not too bad in the simple difficulty. I guess we have the very first phase, you just have to shoot into the boss and you don't have anything to do whatsoever. The second phase, you have just the guess of the RNG. The boss can go either left or right, and the final phase is where all the time save lies, but it's not that easy to optimize, especially with the roundabout. But here is Vandal done in 23:50, about the same time as Zigwigwi actually, and which apparently lost about 2 minutes and a half because of controller issues, which is super sad, because obviously we never want in any competition to have technical difficulties for anyone, and that's going to lose them a lot of points.
Yeah, that it also hurts from a confidence perspective. You've got some momentum going in through, take the wind out of your sails a little bit. So hopefully, Zigwigwi will be able to rally and come back with a pretty positive outlook on some of these other games. Plus, a little worried that your controller is going to give out on you or something in one of the other games. So that's going to be over his head a little bit. Times now for the players, as expected. Melwest in front by almost a minute, 211 points on Cuphead, the best we've seen in a U. Ghost Death with a equally, well, I guess not really good, but also a good run at 1840. One of the better times we've seen in Cuphead, finishing over that 200 point mark. Salient Demars, who was not on stream very much, and we were worried that maybe they were having some stream troubles or something, but they actually finished in third, very solid time, 1916. And then we saw Super Link God, Barramondo, LF, Zigwigwi also getting on the leaderboard, 57. So that's where we stand for now. Remember, top four are what we're going to be focusing on. They're going to be the people who qualify on 2 grand finals. I think it'll be our focus, top four for a little bit, and then once it becomes clear, who are the people for the third, fourth, we'll take a look at third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. But for now, that's where things stand as the players get ready to jump into the next game.
Yeah, so a story about Miracle, one of those games that some players loved and some players hated in the UD. It's a very nice first-person platformer with a grappling hook, very atmospheric, and has a lot of nice speedrun strats and speedrun routes throughout the 5 levels we are going through. Sadly, it also has super long cutscenes, weird physics, collision issues from times to times, and it's not an easy game to master. So world record is sub 30, and that's a time we've rarely seen in races. Best race time was by ZP in 29:46, and second best race time by Jant in 29:54, and those are the only 2 times sub 30 we've seen in races. So we'll see how well that goes for the players today, and it has treated the players fairly well. Usually a lot of runners end with a 31 to 33 final time, but still not an easy game. Very easy to lose a lot of time on one very specific spot. Like if a runner dies once, it's usual to see them fail a couple of times before like finally getting back on their feet, playing a little bit slower, and finally passing the obstacles. So we've seen specifically Melwest and Double T-Fan both during the July tournament failing on that one specific spot in Star Heaven, and everything can trip you up. Like every single jump, every single piece of rock will eventually get you in a single run. So in a race, playing a little bit slower but safer is probably the best bet.
We have seen that shift in that mindset in this game and many other games, really, across UD. But it is games like this one that contribute towards that mindset. I think people realize that you really are risking a lot when you go for faster strats. In this game, they are pretty tricky. They're pretty tricky, getting the right edge of this to get the proper edge boost and get just enough speed to do what you need to do. Hard to do. So, and if there was just, one or two tricks here or there like that, I think players would be more willing to go for it. But the run is really just constantly filled with moments like this. So we have seen players opt to be a little more safe. I don't know about Mel West, though. He generally doesn't go for the safer option. Just learns what is fastest and then just tries to get damn good at that it works in a race. And so it is a game like this where it can really hurt him. It is something that has got him a couple times. At least one notable moment where he almost quit frustration in this game, so I am a little concerned, but he is coming off of a fantastic Cuphead and knows that this is his chance, so we'll see how this goes for Mel West. Has the better PB of the bunch. That's probably going to be the pattern for most of the games for today. He is sitting at the top of the leaderboard by a fair margin. Sailing to Mars, who've got now on stream in the bottom left, and after a great Cuphead run, it's got against some of these other guys in this game. This game's a bit of a weakness for Salient.
Yeah, so Salient managed to get on third place for the tourney right now. They're sitting 3 points ahead of Super Lingard. In the story about my uncle, that's about 30 seconds. So it's not going to be much for Super Lingard to pass them. And we are seeing the introduction for a story about my uncle, where we finally get there in our uncle's house to find them missing, and we are going to look after them. And we are actually going to get inside the teleporter, even if that sounds super unsafe. But no matter what, no matter the cost, we are going to look for our uncle. And MLS goes this, and the Mars and Super Lingard should be fairly even. Getting there, because almost no optimization so far. But starting very, very soon on the Sanctuary, the second level of the game, it's going to be very intense. You have a lot of jumping options, a lot of cycles, and this game is all about like cutting corners, but doing it correctly. As soon as you are going to fall, you are going to lose a lot of time. And even if you have a lot of checkpoints throughout the game, it's fairly easy to lose a minute and a half on a single jump.
Yeah, hopefully this is not something that is too much of a barrier for the players. I'm not going to say hopefully they never miss a jump, because that's honestly very hard to do in a run of this game. You are going to miss one or two things here or there. That's why there are so many darn checkpoints throughout these levels. Very happy to hit everyone they can. In some cases, they can go out of their way to hit more checkpoints as a safety measure. But a very tricky set of jumps to start off the first level here. First real level, anyway. If you land on that fence post, you can make sure that you're able to make this cycle that Melwest is able to make. We'll see how it goes for some of the other players who are loading in just a little bit here. You've got two jumps. You've got the high jump, which you don't see too much of, honestly. You're going to see a lot of this long jump that you're seeing. Anytime these hands start waving like this, it's after a long jump. And pretty quick, they're going to pick up the grapple. There it is. Kind of the big thing in this game. It is a grapple game. It is the kind of grapple that will pull you towards whatever it lands on, and you can kind of whatever you're grappling to, but it's pretty tricky because you're being pulled towards a surface. So you need to make sure so that when you let go, your body will brush past whatever you were grappling to and continue on past. It is not easy to do, requires a fair amount of precision as well as a little bit of timing, and they're going to be doing it all over the place, so it is quite a hard speedrun.
Melo is having fantastic execution so far. They're not going to go for the OOB here, so that's a smart choice. Going for the safety, I totally understand why they would do that. It's pretty hard to save time going with the out of bounds strat. You'd have to do it precisely and on the first try, so they're just going for safety, and we'll see what Ghostdeath chooses to do. They're going for the out of bounds, so they might catch up just a few seconds on Melwest, but Melwest is not stopping for anything. They have so far very good execution. You can see them power leaping all the time, and here we go, focusing on Ghostdeath, going for the out of bound here and succeeding apparently. I'm not sure once again if they actually save time doing that, because saving time in this game is incredibly hard. It's all about like chaining correctly all your grapples, trying to walk as little as possible, but you will eventually need to walk here and there, and if having like a sense of whether or not it's possible to power leap is actually like a lot of work, so you have to get your execution spot on, but also do everything perfectly. Melwest going for some edge boost here and there. If you grapple exactly on the edge of a rock and just grazing it, you will have a very small speed boost, like because you are entering slightly the rock hitbox. The game pushes you away from it, and if you don't like full head-on bump into it, you will actually like get a good speed boost and actually keep your momentum going. So that's usually why you see the runner actually grapple on the ledge of the rocks. They're going to for that, but it's actually very hard to be successful in that regard.
Yeah, very easy to be too far inside of the rock and just straight up regular collide with it, fall back down. Feels pretty bad, and it is the reason why this game is so hard. If you err towards too far inside, you will just hit whatever you're grappling to, most likely. And too far to the outside, you're not going to grapple at all, and you're going to fall down. There are chances if you're once you get multiple grapples, but these opportunities are not super common, especially in the early parts of the game where you don't have your second grapple, your third grapple, the rocket boots. So your options do decrease over time. Melwest is the first one, or increase rather, over time. Melwest is the first one to reach the village section. It opened a very, very long cutscene where you're introduced to this delightful character, Maddie, but the characters, or the players rather, are already very familiar with this character as they've had to wade through this cutscene multiple times in their speedruns, and now we all get to wait along with them as Ghostdeath just now triggering the cutscene to the next stage. Got Melwest in first, Barrymont in second. Ghostdeath and Salient Demars is looking here to hit this checkpoint. It's coming up just a little bit, but you'll see once that text starts, you're free to mess around and clip inside the geometry and some of like we might see from Melwest. But once this village section gets going, it opens with a really tricky jump.
The village is super cool because it's a very open level. The game invites you to actually explore and get your way into like sneaking into the houses of the inhabitants and get to understand how the world is going. But when you actually know where you're supposed to go, it's fairly cool. Melwest having a couple of restarts here and not happy with his jump, and goes for the ledge boost here, that edge boost that allows them to grapple right on that rock and actually skip a couple of jumps. So very nicely done. And Ghostdeath is about Bermundo, my bad, is about 40 seconds behind Melwest. Ghostdeath is about 30 seconds behind Bermundo, so we'll see them like start right after that cutscene in at different moments. And Melwest aiming for that rock, they missed the jump, so they had to wait for the cycle here. But we've very rarely seen anybody like get the perfect cycle on those rocks. Usually the players don't even wait, like they're just on the second cycle immediately. And Melwest refreshing his grapples on the small pebble on the center of those rock circling, and getting a very like he's chaining those jumps so quickly, like it's actually hard to commentate on.
It is super impressive to watch both Ghostdeath and Bermundo struggling with the opening of the village. For a second, Ghostdeath was actually ahead of Bermundo, but he missed his connecting basically on this big village jump. If he gets it this time, no, he's back there. So Bermundo is going to pull ahead. Sailing to Mars even probably going to pull ahead, playing with pretty different brightness settings. So I'm having a bit of trouble actually telling where he is. We'll do our best as we go. Much like Melwest is, he is moving through the village section and didn't like the way that jump was going. This is an important skill. You can reset back to a checkpoint at any time, and a lot of the times you get these really big, fantastic jumps through the, but it takes a long time to figure out whether or not you're actually going to land. So being able to read if your jump was good away and reset if you know that it's not is a pretty important skill that will help you a lot in races this game. Melwest with a fling to kind of save himself, backtracking. Oh no, he's just messing around because he already hit the check. Okay, I was wondering what was going on there. That was pretty unorthodox maneuver, but he's fine. He's moving on to the caves.
So Ghostdeath lost about 2 minutes on the very first jump of the village level. Bermundo had to restart the checkpoint because they accidentally triggered the cutscene, trying to gather the third crystal. So Melwest is like very far ahead right now. The chasms, the third level, is probably one of the hardest level in the game. Well, the hardest because of those skips here. So you are going to try to grapple on the caves walls to get to where you want, but the grapple is actually mostly made for you to grapple like on a small rock and going like straight compared to that. Here you want to graze past the walls and you want to have the correct momentum to get where you want to be. But you also need to do that while not seeing anything at all because everything is pitch black. So that's why all the players usually turn the brightness setting all the way to the max, except Silent of Mars, who chose to make the game actually look nicer, but it's going to be harder to see where they're at on level 3.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to trying to accommodate Sailing to Mars' run through the caverns, but for now we can talk about Melwest grappling in the darkness, trying to find these spots. Very tricky to find the correct grapple points, and he flies right past that plant that was indicating where solid ground would be. The caverns are very punishing because doing these really big, large, out-of-bounds maneuvers that have no checkpoints. So if you mess up at the end of a really long sequence like that, you do end up getting sent back pretty far back. So that's going to hurt Melwest a little bit. Bermundo is joining Melwest as well as Sailing to Mars in the caverns, and it's getting a little close between some of these guys.
Yeah, the only one falling behind is Ghostdeath. They had a very bad level 2. Once again, I've said it at the start of the game, it's normal almost. Like if you start to fail, you are going to fail again and again. This game just sucks you into the abyss. And usually it doesn't, like, there's no relationship between like the two different levels. So you might have a bad level 2 but do fantastic on level 3, 4 and 5. So Ghost Death might pull back ahead there. While Bermundo goes for the second part of the skip here, and Saint Mars, yeah, it's very hard to tell where they're at, but actually managing to succeed on the first part of the skip. They're going to go and get the midway checkpoint here. This is totally optional, but that's pretty cool. And they're not going to go... Wow, this is the first time we're seeing that on Saint Mars screen. They're actually doing the second part of the skip normally, which actually looks okay because they're not losing too much time doing that. It's just a couple of hallways and they're already there. That's super cool to see. You do not actually need to learn the second part of the skip, apparently.
Yeah, this is, I haven't seen this since I played through the game back when we first revealed the game. I think it was game number 3, so this would have been somewhere in late April or something since I've seen that part of the game. I had forgotten just how short it was, really, the thing that the players were skipping. So it's not easy to do those skips. When you know how, it certainly goes from an impossible task to something that is very doable, but it is very hard. And so I definitely approve of this safety strat for Sailing to Mars, especially with a sequence that obviously you're not going to fall anything, but there's plenty of places to grapple all through those caves in there to speed up your travel through that section. So was moving pretty quick through there as well. Melwest is going to be the first one to reach Star Haven. The other players are struggling a little bit in the caverns.
Yeah, so Mars is trying to have his safety stop here in the middle wall. They recharged their grapple, but did not get the full stop they were looking for, and they're just like bouncing around. Yeah, finally they're there. So now they have like one extra grappling to get to the middle platform. As long as they manage to grapple on the rock, now they fail again. Melwest on Star Haven, they have a commanding lead right now and they're not stopping for anything. They had like one very tiny fall on level 3, but that did not cost them too much apparently.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the thing that maybe shifted the dynamic of this race. And we saw Sailing to Mars and Ghost Death pretty close to Melwest. After that, everything has been buttery smooth for Melwest, as the other players have had a myriad problems in a couple different places throughout the caverns here. But it looks like both Ghost Death and Barramundo are now done. Ghost Death a little bit ahead here already in the introduction to Starhaven, whereas Barramundo is waiting for the fade out in the caverns, going to say hello to everyone's favorite one-eyed worm. It does take a little bit for that transition trigger. Sailing to Mars also hitting it, but everyone is going to have their work cut out for them to catch up to Melwest, who is on a very tricky section. Anytime there are these fans, it can be pretty... They're going to be moving on cycles, and very likely you aren't moving with the kind of precision that will have these fans be in exactly the same place for you. So you're going to have to read and react to what these fans are doing when you see them. Melwest knew that the upright fan, he was going to be able to connect to it, and did. If it's not in an upright position, chances are very good you're going to have to connect to the middle of it. You can always count on the middle being wherever the middle is, but it's much harder to get the upwards angle and speed you need from that middle part. So a little bit, one part fortunate, one part a reward for consistency, or whatever it was from Melwest on those fans. We'll see how they go for the other players, and certainly more fans to come. There's a lot of fans in Starhaven, and also just some really tricky rocks that are a little misshapen. We'll see some jumping on rocks coming up in a little bit. That was a real problem for both Melwest and Devil Tifa. Yeah,
this is actually like landing on those rocks and grappling exactly where you want to be can be super tricky. They're already past the spot where they struggled a couple of months ago, and like, to be honest, I'm amazed on how much they improved in the past 2 months. Like, learning a speedrun and practicing it enough to be at that level of confidence are two very, very different things. Sadly, as soon as I say that, obviously commentary curse, they fail, but that's not going to cost them too much. They're trying to land on the edge of the fan here to just get all their grapple charges back and to be exactly where they want to be on the second cycle. But those fans, they don't like give you the momentum you would expect from them, and they're super weird. They're probably the mechanic I hate the most in this game, to be honest. The grappling distance to grab onto them is very short, and you have to be right there, and there are a lot of those in Star Heaven, so being able to land on those railings certainly helps.
Got some teeny tiny rocks that Melwest is grappling to right now. He is able to successfully not bonk his head and rather get an edge boost. He's heading towards this skip. He's got the rocket boots now, which we haven't talked about. Big mid-air boost that you get with the rocket boots, and he's going to use it to get over a cutscene trigger, and he's successful. He runs over that checkpoint, but I'm pretty sure it's not active at the moment, actually, so you really don't want to fall here. You want to make sure you hit another checkpoint, and I mean, ideally not fall at all, but at least if you do, you will have that point. So that is a really big, important moment there. There's still ways to go about that skip. One is much easier, falling between the wooden planks in front and getting put down somewhere that kind of tricks the game and gets you past that trigger. But it is faster to just fly straight over it the way we saw from West. Rocket boots now for Barramondo, looking pretty good. Ghost Death is rocketing as well, looking for some purchase on these rocks, and he is going to find it. It's pretty easy to slip off there, but yeah, players are moving much better through Starhaven than they were through the caverns.
Yeah, the levels 2 and 3 were the warm-ups, but everybody seems to do just fine right now. Sander Mars actually being stuck by the, like, bonked on the first fan here. That's just due to bad luck, I would almost say, of the cycles. They should be fine on the second attempt here, but there are a couple of... almost a minute, I would say, behind Barramondo right now. They're just going to grab their rocket boots just there. Ghost Death is closing in, but Melwest is already done. They're going to have to wait for 2 minutes here as the very emotional cutscenes goes by. So Maddie, that piggybacked on or with us like for the entire game, except it's only been like 15 minutes since. It's only been like 10 minutes since the chasms, actually. And we skipped the cutscenes where she actually comes with us, so this cutscenes has no sense whatsoever in the speedrun. But anyway, we have to wait for it. And that will allow for anyone to catch up with Melwest, pretty much. And only one level remaining, the Ice Caves, that's almost single-handedly made or killed every single run in the game, because it's a very, very tricky level, with a lot of jumps, with a lot of grapplings, with a lot of skips, and with very specifics out of bounds where you want to recharge your grappling and your rocket boots, and it's pretty easy to fall or to pass, so we'll see how well Melwest does, but seeing what they've done on level 1 to 4, I do expect them to go just as fast and maybe get a sub 30 there.
Yeah, he's put himself get that time. Ghost Death, I think, was maybe hoping to get a grapple reset there at the last second, but doesn't really need it anyway, so he's not going to be too worried about it. He's on this box here with this waiting section as Melwest's ship begins to move towards the ice caves there in the distance. That actually appears closer right now for Sailing to Mars than it does for Melwest. I'm not sure if they've got like different field of view settings or something, but it is indeed Melwest who's going to be the first one to reach there, and he's going to open it up with a big skip, grappling through this rock to this thing here. There's supposed to be a sheath that's kind of preventing you from making that grapple, but it's mostly just preventing it from by not letting you see it. It's still there, and something you can grapple to if you know where to look. All these players do. So cutting out a big sequence, big set piece. Actually, it's a little disappointing every time that I talk about this skip that we don't get to see it. Followed by another big skip, getting inside the terrain there to refresh the rocket boots for another. Now we've got to land twice on these awkwardly shaped rocks. He succeeds on the first one. He is now setting up For the second one, he's going to use this platform here.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't think I've seen that from other players. Is he going to get enough height? And he is.
Nice.
So he knows what he's doing, and that is probably one of the hardest things to do in the Ice Cave. Melwest making it look easy.
This is very nice routes, and once again, Melwest has super smooth and interesting strats. That's probably why when you are learning a speedrun, you really want to watch various strats and various PBs of different runners, and that's why we encourage all the runners to submit a PB with their like video and trying to record everything they do, because like just today it's been like 5 months and I've learned a lot of strats from both Silent Mars and Melwest, so that's why you want to be watching a lot of PBs, and this is certainly very interesting. Melwest not stopping for anything, going in a tiny out-of-bounds sequence here. Everything you see exists in the game, so you can take advantage of any platform or any rock you see. And here you really want to skip the platform you see right on your left with a checkpoint, because it's actually going to break your boots if you land there. And turns out having your rocket boosts for the next vertical section is going to be a big help.
Right, when you design a section without them, that is based off of upwards travel, able to shoot upwards by a huge margin, turns out it breaks it good. We've seen Ceiling Damar struggling with the cutscene skip, actually having to reset multiple times, trying to almost like boost out of the after he loads into the world, but does eventually get around to this cutscene trigger. Geth is now starting that same very difficult skip start. We'll see how this approaches for him. This first rock is very tricky to land on. Some players opt to grapple down to it to try to pull themselves to where they need to be. Other players prefer to save the grapple, try to land on it naturally, and if they miss it, they can use the grapple as a second attempt to slingshot up on top of the rock, second rock rather, for Ghost Death. And from here on out, I think he's going to be able to get up safely to continue, so that is a very nice opening section of the Ice Caves for Ghost Death, but it's Melwest who's way out in front. Rocket boost towards this pillar in the middle. He's going to be looking for a little piece of geometry here, and yeah, it's a little scary, but he does manage to find it.
The camera angle made it look super weird, where you could have confused the wall for a floor and the gravity would have done like crazy stuff, but they actually landed on a very, very small like tile that allows for you to land on and actually recharge your grapple and your rocket boots, allowing you to get there around the pillar, land, and just go by. So this is a very nice level made by Melwest, fairly well executed, I would say, and they're going for a lot of like optimized movement, just trying to chain as well they can all the grapple, trying to walk as little as possible, going for a lot of power leaps that's going you to save a lot of time if you use them correctly, and just like grappling on the ground to land exactly where they want and keep on going. This is the very final part of the final level, so Melwest should be done pretty quickly.
Setting up for what is my favorite part of the run. It was the part that caused Melwest some trouble the last time he was racing this game, I believe, or maybe it was the one before that. He is on the final section, a sequence of grapples where you don't touch the floor and you recharge your grapples with these crystals. But you do need to have a grapple to shoot in the first place in order to connect with the crystal to recharge them. So if you're down to your last grapple, you need to make sure that it is on a crystal, or it's the very last one and you're going to land safely on a platform. It does create some interesting moments sometimes where if you're a little faster or a little slower than you're used to, you'd be feeling like, oh, I don't need to get this crystal, or maybe I should, and then you're flicking your mouse back and forth, and you get caught between the different priorities that get people up. But not Melwest. He is now going to be jumping up into this final section. The run is pretty much over. There is just a, kind of a significantly long wait for some cutscene stuff, and then a trot through the workshop that we saw at the beginning of the game. But he is going to be pretty much done, and it's going to be a great time. I'm not sure. This is at the end of the game here, but sub 30, I'm pretty sure is a table.
I'm never sure how long is the final cutscene, how long is the epilogue, but we'll see for sure. 26 here, still a very good time. Ghostess and Bermundo are pretty far from that. Bermundo is just in behind Ghostess, about like 30 seconds to a minute, and Silent Demar starting level 5 right now. As expected, Silent Demar is very far behind. Their PB is about 4 minutes behind Ghostess PB, so that's like what you'd expect. But Silent Demar has a lot of good games coming. Cuphead was one of their strengths, so is Spectrable, also maybe Trials 2. So we'll see how well those goes for them, but so far, Storybound Mongrel, they have to beat the game on time. Zigwigwi having difficulties climbing up there, but barely finding that platform, and they're going to get a checkpoint here. I hope they know where they need to go from there, because like if you touch the checkpoint you're not supposed to, that might be tricky to get where you want. And he's trying to find a platform, but that's not going to help them.
Man, that was pretty rude. We were talking about how, like, you know, most of the things you see in the environment are things you can stand on if you know how to get there, but I'm pretty sure he just slipped right through some piece of geometry, and now he is struggling with how to get out from this checkpoint. He's actually going to backtrack and take things a little more closely to as they should. Perhaps, no, he's going for this really tricky piece of geometry, and that's not going to work again. That's the one he fell right through, so troubles continue for Zigwigwi in game number 2. Ghost Death is rocketing down this final sequence, coming to the final jump of the use the rocket boots.
I'm not even sure where Zigwigwi is supposed to go from there. Maybe he should like try to revert and go for the normal route, but that's supposing to that you know where you're supposed to go. They're going to try and land on that small rock, but they're missing it twice, because landing on those small pebbles is actually trickier than it looks, and they're not making it right now. And sadly, like, Storybound Mongrel is not treating Zigwigwi very well recently, so they're not going to make it there. And yeah, that's pretty bad. They are trying to go for some piece of geometry there, but not finding it. And I'm not sure if they can like go back, actually finding a small rock there. Maybe they will be able to go high enough to land on those platform. Yep, that's it. And then yeah, okay, so they're going to find a way, but that was pretty unlucky, and that cost them a lot of time, sadly.
Yeah, that was purely improv. There was nothing planned about what was happening there, and it's really tough to do well in those situations. We tried all kinds of things. Some were successful, some not successful. The only real error on his part, I think, was going for that same piece of geometry twice after it didn't work. All you can really do is try something and see how it goes. He's going to fail to connect on that second part there. We've got Super Link God back in on the top right section of the screen, and he wanted to go there. He did not want to recharge. So sometimes when you just want to grapple because you're going to fall and die, you hit a crystal and it recharges your grapples, and that sucks. So sometimes those crystals are actually in your way, and it looks like Zigwigwi is saying that he's kind of soft-locked here, which is horrible. It's gone from bad to worse. Controller issues to a weird checkpoint into a soft lock. Just disastrous for Zigwigwi. I don't know if he's going to be able to recover from this situation.
Apparently saying in chat they're kind of soft-locked there. I'm not sure how, but like, clearly touching the wrong checkpoint might have that effect on the Storybound Mongrel. The game is weirdly shaped, and you are really doing stuff you're not supposed to do in the speedrun, so it's one of those games. Maybe it's not the best fit for the UD, but a lot of players had a share of fun running the game, so it's tough when that happens. So maybe Zigwigwi is not going to recover from that. doesn't want to try to go from here and restart the level, which I totally understand. So we are going to swap in LF and in its place, Bermundo and Superling God done with the game pretty much, and LF at the start of level 5.
Yeah, I was having a bit of trouble seeing where Salient Mars was with the different lighting. Really changes the way things appear in the layout of these caves. But he was in the rocket boots, full rocket bootsless version of that upwards climb, and he is now paired his boots and is going to be moving on. He got caught up on some icicles in that cave. You want to boost as far as you can into that to get right next to that fire, that's the cutscene. You don't want to go too far because you can fall down and then you won't be able to jump back up, and you'll be stuck. You'll reset, and you also don't want to undershoot it, and you really don't want to get stuck inside the weird icicles on the entrance to that cave. We saw that happen to firemen, and just got completely stuck. There's always something going on with this game, some weird little thing. Anytime you have a really physics-based performer with natural sort of geometry with these rocks, that's not going to work out if he's going to have to reset back to the checkpoint. It's not too bad. It takes a while to vertically climb up through this whole section, but there's much worse deaths to take.
Yeah, as long as you have a checkpoint close behind and you know exactly where you're supposed to go, deaths are not too bad, but the deaths that are the worst are what Zigu just had. Like, you are slightly off route and trying to correct it with whatever you can, and it not working, and that's where bad things happen. But if you immediately reset as soon as you see that what you're trying to go for is not working, you're not going to lose too much. Of course, exception being those long sections without any checkpoint, like what LF is doing right now, because like when you're too far away from the intended route, there's obviously no checkpoint for you. So the game is not meant like for too big of exploration sessions. You are supposed to gather a checkpoint, understand where the next checkpoint is, and try to go for that. You have a lot of secret areas, but they're never too far off road, so the speedrun really does things another way around. Oh no, no, where are you? There I have the
He got
boots,
jumped, he got a boost.
They can boot again. Yes, okay. I was sure they were like stuck forever there.
Man, that was just seeing the arms flailing but not moving at all.
Yeah.
Like, just calm down, just grab something, you'll be okay. So he is able to right himself from that really weird situation. As Sailors has a PB of 35 minutes, and so you might think, well, he's at the very end of the ice caves with 34 minutes. Pretty good shot at a PB, but the ending cutscene really does take a long time, so he is going to be a minute or so off. Still a very solid race time for Salient Mars. Is going to be quite behind some of our top finishers, of course, but this was really not their strongest game, so they're just trying to do the best that they can on this one and count on their stronger games.
This game is
going. Those points.
This game is going to take a huge toll on the runners. Like, except for Mel West, everybody is losing a lot of time. Bermundo finished at about 35 minutes, just shy of that, and Spelling God is probably going to be like 40 seconds behind. He has the entire workshop to go through, so that might hurt them in the long run, but since everybody's hurt, it might not matter too much, but it's going to make the gaps between the players significantly higher, and that means maybe for anyone in 5th place, catching back up to top 4 is going to be harder. We'll see though how well that goes. LF being stuck on a section I'm not too familiar with. That means they're probably not on the intended track. I'm not sure. But that's something we usually don't see. That's what you skip if you go for the small platform on the big central pillar. And they're actually going all the way around, like grabbing those icicles that fall instantly as soon as you grapple onto them. Very dramatic part, but they're doing just great, knowing exactly what they're doing, apparently.
Has no rocket boots, but I think is able to land. All right, so showing us how you're kind of supposed to reasonably get to this secret little platform down there. They put a little frozen Olaf snowman guy on there. It is, most of what he did was part of the intended path, but landing this platform after that fall is a bit of an Easter egg. He's now on some of these really weird, dark parts of the terrain. Anytime the terrain is unnaturally dark is generally somewhere you're not supposed to be in this game, especially with the brightness settings that the way the players have. And he's going to be taking sort of a middle low road through this section. A couple different ways you can go here. I think there's even an achievement at this part for not touching the ground by always going on the high road. And he's looking to grapple something that he couldn't reach. And on his last grapple, he's not able to find purchase. So that is going to set him back quite a ways. He doesn't even know where he is now.
He's like, where am I? And he's not realizing the way is the other way around. Now, finally finds his way, but sadly being at 37 minutes here, that means they don't have the time to beat the game in under 40 minutes. The UD6 had like two different direction, like score-wise. We both wanted to go with like the players actually finishing the game, so no, you don't score anything if you don't finish the game on times, but we also wanted to put like a lot of longer and harder games, so we had to shrink down the time limit, and every single game, like beating them on time for above 100 points is actually a big accomplishment already, so it's pretty normal to see some of the runners actually not making it on time, sadly. That's something we certainly have to work on. Like accessibility, UD6 was a challenge for anyone joining in fun.
I almost feel like LF isn't getting the full boost from the rocket boots. There's some frame rate. They're tied to the frame rate in a weird way, and so speedruns for this game set the frame rate value that makes them do a little more. And I don't know, something about the way that LF is boosting with you, just not reaching the as I'm used to seeing players reach. I'm not sure if it's a user error or something else, but he really is having some trouble with these ice caves. He's not going to finish, like you said. We'll follow him on his noble journey to go as far as can. But twice now, I've seen situations from LF where he's faced with a choice between grappling a solid point or grappling a crystal to refresh his grapples, and I've seen the cursor literally flick back and forth from one to the other, and that hesitation got him at least once. So just showing a bit of unfamiliarity with certain parts of the game. I'm not sure if he's got stuck on a route that he's not used to or what, but not the Story About My Uncle run that he was looking for in that tournament. Some players did get the run that they were looking for. Mel West is going to be thrilled when we see that final time in the leaderboard. We can see how thrilled he is. Also had a great Cuphead, so is off to a commanding start. Ghost Death, I think, was not happy about what happened in the village. Lost a lot of time, but made it up over the course of the rest of the game. Had a pretty strong Cuphead, so I'm looking forward to seeing him somewhere in the top 4-ish, perhaps. I'm really not sure, so we'll take a look in a moment. But sad times for LF and Zigwigwi.
Yeah, apparently Zigwigwi might not pick the next of the turning up. I'm not sure they're going to decide what they want to do, but like not being able to finish a Story About My Uncle on time, I would totally understand their decision. So a Story About My Uncle got the best of the runners. Like, it is a tough game, it is a hard game to de-rust, and Mel West apparently had no trouble whatsoever with that. 409 points in the total of the first two games. Ghost Death is 24 points ahead of Super Lingard on A Story About My Uncle, and Bermondo closed the gap a little bit, so third and fourth are super close together. Ghost Death is in the middle ground between Super Lingard and Mel West. Sander Mars is like sitting at a comfortable 5th place, but they need to get in the top 4. And while the last chance tourney promised to be an interesting battle for the top 4. Maybe what we're going to see is Melwest, Ghostdeath, Superlingard, and Bermondo keeping a nice lead and having the top 4 almost already qualified, and just taking that as a practice tournament for next week. We'll see. The real battle is probably going to be next week with the best 10 players running for top 4, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but obviously all those runners have to beat all the games on time, keep on running as fast as they can, and nothing is said and done. We'll see. For them though, Metal Slug is 3rd, and Metal Slug is a crazy speedrun.
There's a lot of jumping, a lot of shooting, but most importantly, and perhaps less excitingly, there's a lot of resource management. Yay! But it is an integral part of the speedrun, really. You want to make sure that you have bombs when you need this. You want to make sure you have rockets or a shotgun when you need the rockets and the shotgun. And dying will reset these things. You will, if it's from a continual, you'll get a heavy machine gun, and any death will give you 10 bombs. There's a lot of situations where it's not enough. There's a lot of situations where the pea shooter is not enough. So it can be pretty mean if you die in the wrong places. There are a lot of bosses and mini bosses and little skips here and there where you need to make sure that every enemy dies at the same time, and sort of tricks the game into letting you progress. And those are generally pretty tricky as well. So we've seen Metal Slugs fluctuate kind of a lot. It all comes down to just a couple key moments, really, here and there, sprinkled throughout the run. And I don't think really knock it out of the park on every single one. I think everyone has had something that's tripped them up a little bit. And particularly that final boss fight. We haven't seen a lot of people, putting bombs and shotguns into the final boss, keep everything in finish. Generally, there's usually a death in that fight, so there's a lot of time to be gained and lost here in Metal Slug.
The best race time is Devil Tifa in 12:18, and we had only 4 players beating the game in under 13 minutes in a race. So what you're seeing right now with the PBs, like 11, 12, 13, 14 minutes for all the players, might actually be like a big lie, and everybody, like, whether your PB is 13 minutes or 11 minutes, it might not make a difference in a race, because you have to play so differently with like how you are actually grinding the game. So we'll see how well that goes for the players. Race is starting right now. Bermondo, Melwest, Superlingard, and Ghostdeath being 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and Melwest already done with the first chopper. There's a little bit of like desync because of the stream delay, but first level is not going to matter too much, as it's almost like never stopping running right and just like gathering grenades at the final spot here.
Yeah, all the players predictably pretty close together throughout the first level. Any difference in the players is mostly down to variation and things and play, but I would bet that Melwest, with the best time of the bunch, has managed to pick up maybe a second here or there throughout the stage. He certainly appears to have finished first. One complete on screen from first boss. Doesn't have a lot going on. You get close, so you've got enough bombs. Throw the bombs in there, and you'll get the kill pretty quick. It's the second where things start to get a little more technical, finding the shots you need on all of these paratroopers. Getting your horizontal movement in this game is pretty tricky. Anytime you jump into the air, you do have a fair amount of control over your jump, but it's a very swingy sort of control, so it is very hard to weave left and right to hit all of these paratroopers the way that you need to. Melwest had a pretty easy time of it. Ghostdeath is doing pretty well as now. Bermondo doing a good job, and Melwest getting now to the boats part, waiting for the boats to become vulnerable before he starts shooting his rockets. And one last boat that is vulnerable immediately that he's going to start dumping bombs in. It's going to pick up the shotgun and move on to the mini boss.
I love that final boat. Like, you're just like hammering everything you have just off screen. It minimizes the lag. You're actually generating, and also like it immediately explodes as soon as possible. It's fairly cool. Knowing like how to run Metal Slug means also like knowing how everything is going to happen and knowing where everything is, and that means you're actually like entering, like reading the matrix. You are understanding how exactly the game is going to happen, and that's pretty cool. Entering the slug here, you are going to have a nice phase skip if Melwest manages to get all the enemies on the ladder at the same time. The screen is going to scroll way before it's supposed to, just because the game checks regularly if there are enemies on screen, and usually the game is going to generate new enemies regularly. But if you kill everybody at the same time, the game just says, well, you're done, let's go, and that's pretty cool. So you have a couple of phase skips like that in the game, mainly in mission 3 and in the final mission, but this is a small one and it's pretty cool. It's pretty easy to do, just have the correct positioning with the slug and you're done.
We'll see if Saline Damars and Ghost Death and Barramundo can find this positioning. They've got the planes going and they've got those down, but the guys are going nuts on the ladders here. Saline Damars is able to move on. Barramundo's stuck here a little bit. Ghost Death will be starting the boss fight, and Melwest is well done with this boss fight and moving on to the next level. He is going to be killing off just a couple more soldiers and then going for a suicidal jump here after this last helicopter. It's one of the closest things to a I mean, I guess there's shooting phases with the soldiers, so maybe it's not the only skip, but like in terms of avoiding a platform that you're supposed to jump on, that's pretty much it right there, just to jump into a pit with a death warp back up to the top. Pretty easy stuff. Melwest going to be approaching the next mini boss. Ghost Death also now starting this level. We can see LF is also pretty far along on this level, Super Link God as well. Vandal is done with the stage 2 boss. Igwigwi is continuing with the UD. We'll see if they're able to bounce back. Maybe we get some no finishes on games here or there. Who knows? He's keeping it interesting. Barramundo also now on this level. Done with the mini boss fight already. Using that knife, jumping over the knife attack that you bait out is a very quick way to deal with the boss. And there's not a lot of other ways to quickly deal with this boss.
People in chat being torn, like, Melwest is actually too good, why root for him? Like, come on guys, he's put a lot of effort and practice and work into those 10 games, so whoever wins the UD6, whether it be Melwest by a huge margin or anyone else, is going to be due to sheer work and practice, so whoever wins is going to deserve 100%. Saline Mars, on the other hand, if they do win, it's going to be due to sheer work and also immense luck as they're starting this Alan O'Neill fight. This is a very interesting one. The boss hitbox, when he's actually slashing, is quite small, and with precise movement you can just keep on going like with the knife on the boss and actually deal with the guy quite fast. Melwest is already done with the boss, like using the slug and shooting 1 million grenades. You can kill that pretty quickly, and Ghost Death and Barramundo doing their best to catch up. Stage
3 boss and for Melwest, using the bombs in the Metal Slug because it gets around the 2 bomb limit that you can have out on the screen at any time, lets you really quickly of this boss, and it's one of those things where if you don't have the right resources, if you don't have those bombs, if you don't have the slug, that boss will take quite a bit longer. It's generally pretty easy to get there with the things you need, picking up the bombs and keeping the slug. Both are not too difficult, but there are some situations, particularly later on, where it is very hard to hold on to the resources that you need. Melwest currently tearing through mission 4, getting to the end of it already. It's a very short and sweet mission, and the boss is pretty underwhelming as and throw into them, so that's going to go pretty well. Ghost Death was able to bomb the third mission boss. He is joined shortly by Barramundo, who's going nuts with those bombs, and he's not going to have quite enough to finish it with just those, so he's going to have to switch to the cannon and get the last couple hits. I'm not sure how
they should be shooting at the same time with the cannon and the machine gun, but they switched right at the end, and the boss died. 86 in-game time. Melwest killed the boss at 88 in-game time, so the timer resets right as the boss fight starts. So I'm not sure how much is one unit of time, in-game time, compared to seconds, but that's actually quite a lot, maybe 5 seconds, so they kind of lost about 10 seconds compared to Melwest on that specific boss. Ghost Death making good progression on mission 4, one of the most satisfying ones, because it's super short, it's pretty easy, and you kill just everything in one shot using the shotgun. The boss can be tricky, you have to know how to dodge everything, but as long as you have the resources... wow, Ghost Death almost dying, but getting a very nice boss kill, and joining in Melwest in the fun of mission 5.
Melwest almost done, just holding out. Underneath the boss here, you can't really damage the boss. You're kind of just waiting for it to die, really, and surviving. Underneath it, it is a really weird boss, the end of the mission 5, but it is pretty straightforward. So he is done with mission 5. He is very close to the end of the game, and Melwest continues to hold a pretty significant lead heading into the final mission. Sailing to Mars got held up a lot at third boss. It didn't have the metal slug, didn't have too many bombs, so he was stuck shooting with the rocket launcher. The lag was immense. You know, he was getting decent damage on the boss compared to the bombs, but was losing way more time because of all the lag that was being created from the machine gun fire and things. So lost quite a bit of time. It's way back on mission 4, jumping his way through there. Mission 5 for many of the other players that we can now look at, but it's Mel. Final mission got the knife skip, is on the bridge, is triggered the correct set of enemies. If you're on the top or bottom, you will spawn different kinds of these.
The guy trying to find dodging. Yeah, he wants to stay on top. He has to, but he also wanted to keep his resources, and 17 shotgun shells, all 4 prisoners. The leftmost one is holding a shotgun. The shotgun the guy is holding, you want to keep alive and you want to use on the final boss. So a few different strats here. You can save him right now and get the shotgun on yourself and try to keep that alive by not dying. You can get the prisoners to stay here by not shooting at it ever. That's what Melwest is trying to do. That's why he's dodging all those not avoiding actually shooting at those guys and going with the knife instead. You could also save the guy, get him to drop the shotgun and not pick the shotgun. So those 3 options bear advantages and inconvenience, and pros and cons, and you might find yourself doing different things depending on the situation. Melwest dodging the stuff the tank is throwing at them now, and saving those prisoners to gather 20 grenades. He doesn't pick them up. He wants to keep all the resources on the boat as long as possible, so they don't. If they die, it's not too bad for them. And actually dies intentionally here. They're going to pick up 10 extra bombs and machine gun, and those 10 grenades is actually dodging. So whether or not they die, they will keep all the resources alive. That's actually pretty smart, but it's also very hard to do. So he's gathering the bombs now that the enemy is done, and they struggled a little bit to gather the shotgun at the end, and died right after that, losing 30 shotgun shells and 30 bombs. Oh my god.
Normally it's here, it's this section. If you do manage to hold on to everything and get to the beach, it's this helicopter that gets to you. But before off the boat, just tagged in the back with a missile. I think he landed on a part of the stage he didn't count on landing on and got held up a little. Now that's pretty bad. So he is going to have 20 bombs and no shotgun heading into the final boss. Ghost Death died a lot in the first half of the final stage. This bridge section is mayhem. This one that Barramondo is in, he still has his shotgun, so he's doing very well for himself. Most players just die here. They die. It almost seems like they've taken it as just an unavoidable fact of life when running this part of this game. and so they just roll with it. But Barramondo and Mel West defying that, both of them holding on to their resources, and Mondo makes up a ton of time on Ghost Death, and both players have time to make up now. From Mel West, who is pea-shootering down the final boss, he's going to be dying a lot and refilling on bombs. Bombs do so much more damage than your pea-shooter. It is kind of the thing to do, especially if you get bad patterns where the boss is kind of out of the reach of your bombs. You definitely want to be spending that time dying and getting the refill.
So quick maths recap, they lost the worst of 90 bombs. That's 9k damage when the pea shooter just one shot deals 10 damage. So they had to compensate for that, and actually did it very well, and killed the boss quite quickly with no resources whatsoever. So they got good patterns, but also reacted fairly well. But they probably lost 40 seconds to a minute dying there. And yeah, that they're still sub-13, so that's a very, very good time. But they lost like the best UD race time ever by just dying there. It's pretty sad, and like Metal Slug is ruthless. Like it's going to cost you everything just if you do one single mistake on that final mission. Ghost Death already let the shotgun boat sail and is going just to go with the Metal Slug and the machine gun, while Sandomars is trying to keep everyone alive, but that boat is actually starting to get complicated. They're saving the first guy. The second guy is going to hold the shotgun, while LF is already on the boss. Barramondo is still on the boat, having the shotgun well and alive, and Ghost Death is trying to save their Metal Slug, and they actually jump with it, making it explode and wasting all the potential that held.
Yeah, there's a couple things that Metal Slug will do for you. It will let you throw bombs on the boss a little faster. It will certainly let you take more hits. You can get those cannon shots. You've got the heavy machine gun-like fire on it. There's a lot of advantages. Plus, if you are just going to use the slug crash, you could have hit the boss with it and done like 8 bombs worth of damage or whatever it is. It's a ridiculous amount of damage. And he threw all of those resources away with that early slug crash, so that is very unfortunate. He is now down to the heavy machine gun. And LF got into this boss fight a little bit faster. Didn't quite have the resources, but he was able to muddle his way through it. He is finished around a 14:20 or so is going to be his time. Ghost Death and Barramondo are now just trying to find these bomb hits on this boss. He's just hovering just a little bit out of reach. Ghost Death smartly taking a death there on the missile pattern to refill, and he's hoping this boss comes down just a little closer, please.
Yeah, the boss has a lot of different patterns and is going to move depending on what you're doing, and sometimes that's going to cost you a lot of time. So you want to get inside his hitbox and get as much damage done as possible, as fast as possible, but sometimes that's nowhere to be done or seen depending on his behavior. So Ghost Death is just mashing as fast as they can, getting a 15-20 or so on Metal Slug. Barramondo is done as well. Zigwigwi might be done soon. Sandomars is going into the boss fight fairly soon. Yeah, Zigwigwi has the shotgun, so he is the only one with the shotgun on the boss, and that actually might save them a lot of time. They died finally, but had only 2 shotgun shells left, so that was probably intentional. And the boss should be then fairly soon.
Not sure if those shotgun shots were connecting. The hitbox is certainly massive on the thing, but he was pretty far away from that boss, and I wasn't seeing it flash. But then again, that can play tricks on me with the frame rate that people are at. Turn of the boss was on its last legs. Blows up there, so Guigui is going to be finishing right around the 16-minute mark. He's probably was hoping for a little better, but he's going to be to finish a run for a game after the BS troubles he's had. Saline to Mars dying now on this boss, probably intentional for the refill. Anytime you see someone die on that missile pattern, very likely intentional, because you're not going to be getting many hits on the at all. So refilling with bombs, he's getting the third in a row. This is the
worst pattern, and yeah, sometimes it's like the dragon soups or any like very bad boss patterns a lot of bosses have, like in speedrunning, like the Aghanim blue balls or whatever. Like, you cannot do anything to the boss while they do that, and just you have to wait for the patterns to go. So sadly, some of them are losing a lot of time there, but cannot do anything about it. They have to beat the game fairly soon, or they will 17 minutes and that's it. So they will not be able to beat the game on time, sadly. Vandal probably in the same boat as Sam Mars there, and yeah, time is up.
So yet another no finish from a player or two in Metal Slug. This has happened a couple times before. The final boss is a big candidate for this sort of time loss, but there's a bunch of other pitfalls throughout the run that can get you in this game. So some players got. Unfortunately, we did see some pretty good runs, though. Mel West continues to have a fantastic tournament. All first 3 games going quite well for him. We'll see just how well that it has gone for him as we take a look at the leaderboard. Sitting already, this is 83 points ahead of second place after 3 games, is one of the biggest leads that we've ever seen in a UD tournament, especially only just 3 games in. So Mel West is looking phenomenal, and then we've got a battle for second place that's formed here between Super Link God and Ghost Death, just 2 points apart. 471 points for Barramondo, and then LF and Saline Demars pretty far back, over 100 points back. They're going to need probably a no finish from one of these other 4 players in order to have a chance at cracking this top 4, which we as viewers kind of want to see, because 4 is that's the magic number. Top 4 are going to advance to grand finals, and the fact that there's a 140 gap between 4th and 5th is it doesn't make for the exciting finish we would want to see. Not too much of a question mark in terms of who is going to qualify right now.
Yeah, this is once again going to be maybe more of a practice tourney for Mel West, Super Link God, Ghostes, and Barramondo rather than a fierce competition. Although, once again, it is not done until it's done. Mel West had a rough inertia last time he's raced. That's where everything like turned to chaos pretty much. So I do hope the game is going to treat them better this time around. And like, I'm fairly sure Ghost Death, Barramondo, Super Link God, and Mel West are able to beat all the games on time and just show above 100 on every single game. The first question is by how much, and the second question is really Shovel Knight, The End is Night, DKC, Spectrable, Eye of Sorrow going to go so well? How much points they're going to get on Trials 2? Because do remember, next week, if those 4 qualify, they're going to go against Devil Tifa, Brother Main, Skunk Off, Cute Shadow, and some others, and Skunk Off especially.
Capri and Fireman,
yeah,
I think.
Thanks. And yeah, I stopped on Skunk Off because that was my point pretty much. Skunk Off has a huge lead and kept his huge lead on Trials 2. And if they manage still to put like 25 points ahead of everyone else on that single game, that might put them on the top 4 and qualify to the Ultimate Finals. So we'll see. For right now, we are going to take a short break. Next up is Inertia and Shovel Knight, but the runners do still need to, relax for a little bit, walk around, get their setup ready, water, stretch, everything they need. So we'll be back in 10 minutes at 7 p.m. CEST, so that's 1 p.m. EDT. So have a glass of water, coffee, whatever your favorite beverage is, and we'll be right back. And we're back with 2 more races for today. We've started with Cuphead, A Story About My Uncle, and Metal Slug, and just coming next, Inertia and Shovel Knight.
Yeah, so this is going to be a pretty important finish, I think. Both these games have been games that have been big problems for certain players, and they're always ones that I'm a little worried about going into, so the players aren't too worried about it themselves. For Inertia, certainly, again, Mel West is going to be the player at the top, Super Link God very close, and Zigwigwi, who's been having troubles, is actually our best player by quite a bit of the guys competing today, so if things start to finally go his way, maybe he can start to make up some points. This is a scary game for Stanley DeMars and LF. They're both not too far above 100 points on their PBs, so looking just to finish in the 13 and a half minute cutoff. I do have it here 13.
Yeah, it is 13 and a half.
So that's kind of their goal, really, is to hold on for now. Vandal, who is hasn't finished many runs so far, a better shot than they do, 135 point PB for him. And Inertia, yeah, so I think the players we're going to see this group of 3, I think, between Mel West, Super Link God, and Zigwigwi. And then Barramundo and Ghost Death will be giving us a pretty good race, I think. And then Shovel Knight, everyone's pretty spread out. We've got all the way up at 217 points for Mel West. On a gradual scale, 190, 189, 183, 174, 173, all the way down to Zigwigwi at 145. So, a pretty big mix of across Shovel Knight. But for this game that we're seeing right now, Inertia, I think we're going to see some clusters who will hopefully give us a good race.
I love Inertia as a viewer. I think it's one of the most interesting experience we've put out on any UD. It's a very tough game, but the flow and the expectation, like second to second, minute to minute, every single jump you'll have something that's happening, and it's just fantastic. The problem with the game is that it actually doesn't play as you'd expect, and you have to bind the slide and the jump button together for it to behave a little bit like in a speedy way, and then you have to get like a good grasp on how the double jump works. But once you've passed those hurdles, the game is actually fairly cool. So it's been a pleasure to watch all those players grind the games, and the players are getting ready. The PBs, Mel West leads with a 708, Super Link God at a 728. Ghost Death and Barramundo a little bit behind at 837 for Barramundo and 845 for Ghost Death. But once again, it's one of those games where the PB actually lied a little bit in races, and sub 830 is very, very rare.
Oh, so yeah, we've talked about it numerous times throughout the season. We've been wondering if someone was going to put up the god tier run during a race, and it just seems like it never has, because it is just so difficult in this game. Mel West is showing off something that we don't see from many other people in this game, and that's this camera shaking tricks the game into thinking that you're strafing in a way that it can be a little hard to watch at times, but he's getting way more speed off of these jumps than you're going to be from a lot of other people who are also getting way more speed than you're kind of supposed to in this game because of the sliding and jumping down to the key. Like you said, they're moving about 3 times faster than your regular running speed when you do this slide jump. So incredible speed that the players are getting through some of these jumps as they get started. Mel West hopefully got the message that we're just looking at a delayed stream or something here. Doubt he skipped all the way to level 29. So let's just cross our fingers and hope that is what is going on as the players are done with the first 3 levels or so. Ghost Death is just the start of the 3rd level, actually, but Barramundo, Super Link God, keeping it close on the right side of the screen.
Yeah, so players have the tendency to practice right before the race starts, and Melwest should be resetting soon. They might have like a big stream delay, but Ghostdeath fell behind a little bit as Super Lingard and Burmondo are super close together at the start of level 7. So if you keep an eye on bottom the right corner, Burmondo showing off a few of the early stages here with the normal tricks you are expecting a runner to do. Binding on the same shortcut, jumping and sliding, gives you that very big forward speed. As soon as you jump, you will go almost at max speed. The speed in the game can go very high, but anything past 1600 units per second is fairly unusual. That means having like perfect bunny hop or a jump of chaining and or strafing, and strafing in this game is pretty weird. So you want to get then your double jumps precisely where they need to be. Double jumping does not work the way you'd expect. If you want to gain the max height and the max speed for your double jump, it has to be 2 jumps in quick succession as close together. So Melwest finished his practice run and is now waiting for the race to start, maybe, I'm not sure. Ghostdeath is having a difficult time, I feel. The jumps are not as precise as you want them to be, but they managed to get into it, and now the flow is back.
Maintaining that flow, very important in this game. Like the story about my uncle we saw earlier, it's very easy to that flow from one thing to the next that you've practiced. It's very jarring. It's very hard to get back into that sense of flow. Your mind is still thinking about what you were about to do if you hadn't messed up, instead of thinking you need to redo that is right in front of you. So, switching gears like that when you make these mistakes is really hard. So it's very common for one mistake lead to a couple in this game. But hopefully the players are not going to make any mistakes in the first. Melwest has finally started in earnest, and he is doing so well off these first couple levels that I wonder what kind of shot he has of, at least on stream, appearing to catch some of these other players who are racing. Again, really hope something is, that did in fact start on time, and we're looking at some kind of a technical malfunction rather than honestly falling asleep at the starting line, because that would be pretty tragic, and kind of the only thing that could possibly stop Melwest at this point. He is looking fantastic.
Yeah, they're doing great. We'll see how well that goes timing-wise for that specific race. Ghostdeath had like a struggle at the start and reverted on some of those levels to safety strats, like we've said multiple times during the UD6, but it's been a pattern on every single game, like learning how to be super aggressive, seeing how that doesn't work in a race, and reverting to learning some of the safer strategies and routes. And in inertia, that means usually like taking a few steps back and actually using some of the platform the game has to offer, rather than just ignoring everything and trying to go directly to the end. So you'll see Ghostdeath here taking a lot of those platforms and slowly inching the way towards the end. So they're doing great and getting to level 19 already. 4 minutes and a half elapsed already. The timer goes super fast, so is the score. So it's a point is 3 seconds, so that's actually quite fast for losing or gaining points compared to the other runners.
Right now we've got LF in third. Ghostdeath has surpassed him by quite a bit, despite falling back as early as level 3. The others were on 5. So LF has struggled a little bit like we thought he might in this game. It's definitely one of his weaknesses, and Ghostdeath has really rallied and picked it up here. But Miramondo continues to be our leader on 23, I think, is this super bright open stage, and he is going to land up top, get a nice little run across this section here, and is having a little trouble disengaging from that ledge, so maybe not saving all that much time, but it definitely is worth it for the safety, at least, of not having to worry about the couple jumps across those gaps. He's moving on to 24 and is looking really strong. Ghost Death has been gaining ground, I think, on Barramundo just a little bit here and there, and is already on 22, is slamming into these walls to stop your speed so that you can turn around and make the next jump that you need to make. Now his turn for 23 misses the jump, so he's going to have a quick reset there. Barramundo is on 26, sprinting through some of these gaps. Jumping in those low ceiling areas can be a bit of a problem, especially this part where you're supposed to slide.
Yeah, too short.
Oh, he's not going to make it. This is a big reset here, back to the start of 26.
26 is one of those levels where we've seen a lot of those. You want the triple jump off those, that's a wall jump, and they got it. And when you get that, you are so you have so much room. Like it doesn't look like it could cause any problem any time. And actually, like every single jump in inertia can trip you up. So Barramundo going a little bit slower and starting 28, 29, 30 at certainly the harder level in the games. And like you want to set up all your jumps here. Missing a single jump is going to cost you a lot of time, so you'd rather make sure that you are going to succeed. And nicely done by Barramundo, because this is pretty close behind now, 2 levels ahead. Barramundo might be able to still finish first there.
29, an especially tricky level, but he's past the tricky part. The second part is landing on this platform, very small after a very big drop. He's passed both obstacles on the first try. He's looking really wrong in this game. We'll see how it goes for Ghost Death, who is still making his way through. 28 is about halfway through. Mel West is absolutely flying through these levels. He is all the way up to 22. He's pretty much caught LF after a 2.5 to 3 minute head start on stream anyway. Mondo. He just barely on that platform, just kind of teeters off the side right end with the door in sight of level 30. Pretty big knockback there as Ghost Death finds purchase on this weird spring curl around part of 29 that is so difficult. He's just got one last platform to hit as Barramundo is looking to find a surface, and he does. A couple of tricky jumps here, and he almost did it again.
Yeah. That's scary, and finishing 30, finally, Ghost Death is right on his tail. They might be able to pass them if Barramundo doesn't clear 31 and 32 on the first try. Mel West, still hard to tell where they're at, but making as good of progress as they can. Barramundo beating 31, no problem, and 32 is one of the shortest level in the game. You have to pass those obstacles though, and getting those wall runs correctly, and those are tricky, I would say, maybe like poorly done, depending on your how you'd say it. But the wall runs are weird. You cannot wall run everywhere, it's just on the arrows that you can do it, and you will sometimes get a triple jump off them or not, depending on when you're triggering your double jump, so that can get tricky. But Barramundo finishes the game right before Ghost Death. Ghost Death stuck on 30, sadly.
Yeah, Mel West is coming, actually. There, the door to the end of 29, Mel West is joining Ghost Death on 30. I was wondering if he was going to be able to do this. He is just really good at the game, and is able to do things with the doing. This is something that is very hard. I mean, this game is already incredibly hard to control the way that the other players are doing it. You add in this camera shaking, that is, it's just literally one more thing you need to be worrying about and doing with your hands and your mind, but it's also preventing you from accurately seeing where you're going.
Yeah.
So there's so much that makes it harder to do, and it's the reason why so few people are doing it. But Mel West is doing it, and he's doing it really well. He ran into some trouble there already, multiple resets there, trying to do a jump that you can only do with the camera shake maneuver. But he does get it. He's joining Ghost Death in 31. Ghost Death towards the end almost overshot that platform, but he is going to be able to back up and get into the door heading into 32.
Yeah, Melwest is showing some interesting strat. Do remember they started about 2 minutes behind Ghost does. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out with the time submission, but Ghost is done with the game at about like 11 minutes, 10 minutes and 45 seconds. LF stuck on 28 and San Mars is actually making good progress. Inertia is a cursed game for San Mars because it's because of Inertia that they actually missed qualifying for the finals of the September tournament. And if they qualified there, maybe they would have succeeded and the story would be very different for today, but sadly they have to go and beat the game in under 30 minutes 30, but apparently they're going to be able to do so. So San Mars should be able, as soon as they grab that rope, to beat the game on time.
Really careful finish there for Salient Demars, but it's going to finish under 12 minutes. What is their PB actually in Inertia? It is 12:40. So that is going to be a PB by a minute for Salient Demars. Fantastic job. LF as well. Inertia has been a weakness of theirs. Their PBs are like 13:21, and they're fixing to do quite a bit better than that currently versus 12. And well, I mean, they are having a lot of trouble with these last few levels. These are the kind of things that can just be a total wall here at the end. So we'll see. It's going to need to kind of make it happen over the next couple levels, and is currently not. Still has a chance to finish and to put a time on the board, but it's slipping away a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared for LF. Sadly, 29 is certainly the hardest level in the game, and they are having a lot of trouble with it. So they need to get up there and climbing, but they missed a couple of times the jumps, and 45 seconds remaining to beat the game. That might be too short for them. 3 levels remaining after 29, and yeah, that might be just off what they need. Vandal is in the same boat and on level 29. This is like hell for those players if you're not very well practiced. If you are just forgetting how you're supposed to clear those jumps, it's not going to work for you.
We'll see if LF can at least beat level 30 here before the timer ticks up. Over 10 seconds left. Trying to do those slide jumps to squeeze under, is kind of laying up here, almost like it's almost like golf. Like if you can bar platform, or do you lay up and land on the closer one? And with that ill-placed double jump, he is going to fall short and not going to finish. So chalk up another DNF for LF and Vandal. They probably came out to play knowing that it was a lot, especially against some of the players who were going to be here. But they came out to play, you know, to have some fun and try to see what they could accomplish. So probably be one of our grand finals. See what they can pull off in the last game coming up today, as well as the remaining 5 games tomorrow. Perhaps we can take a look at the leaderboard. And predictably, we still have quite a big gap in 4th and 5th, so the battle for who qualifies is becoming less and less exciting with each game. But the general placement of each player is going to be fun to watch. We can see Mel West's time is... So there was some stream delay, but I think we did see a legitimate late start there from Mel West, so that is a shame. Still holding onto the top spot by 90 points, so is not going to be too worried about it. Super Link God with a fantastic inertia, and Ghost Death with just okay inertia. We see a pretty big gap opening up between those 2 players who were once quite evenly matched. About 30 points separate them, and then another 20 points between Ghost and Mondo.
I'm just checking the final for the September tournament to see how well the runners have been doing today compared to those 4. Because do remember, like Puik and Fireman, Devil Tifa and Brothermain and Q-Shadow and Skankov are going to run against the 4 players that qualified today. And I have bad news for Puik and Fireman, because everybody is outperforming them today on every single game. So it's going to be tricky. Shovel Knight is going to be one of the big games, because Puik and Fireman we're pretty good at Shovel Knight, but we'll see how well that goes. So Shovel Knight, quick reminder, if you do not know this game, you should probably get on board and play through those... it's a Mega Man-like, pogoing DuckTales-like game. It's it's pretty cool, very reminiscent of the 8-bit era. Lots of bosses, action platformer, a lot of different weapons and magics, lots of secrets throughout the world. Very precise and tight platformer, and the speedrun has been great. It has been featured multiple times on tournaments on Speed Gaming, and the community is very still active, waiting for the fourth and final DLC for the game, for the King Knight campaign. So you can expect to see way more of Shovel Knight on various speedrunner channel if you like the game. But for today, the goal is to beat the game in under 65 minutes, which is pretty hard actually, way harder than it sounds.
Yeah, this is the biggest, densest game in the UD history, and it's been a problem for some players, particularly in races. They're in their grind. They're able to get their time down to 58 minutes, 57 minutes, and then race comes and there's a bad death. It throws off your gold count, and now you need to worry about getting. The stakes can compound, and it can go pretty bad pretty quick. We saw some players like Ziguigui who were doing fantastic through earlier sections of the game, got into some of the harder levels, and started to fall apart a little bit. So it's a pretty scary game, but it is fun to watch. It's filled with tricks. I can't wait to see what routes the players are going to be taking through this game, especially the racers we haven't seen compete. Before we move on from Inertia, I just want to give a quick shout out to Faraziel, who I'm not sure if they've even been competing in the other games so far, but they did enter the tournament mostly for Inertia. They got the second place time on the UD leaderboard, and posted like a 7:22, like 15, nice. 16 seconds off of their PB. I think the best Inertia time we've ever seen in a race, for sure. Godly run. I'm really sad we didn't get to see it, but yeah, shout outs to them for entering the tournament and everyone how it's done on Inertia. As we get started with game number 5, Shovel Knight underway.
So yeah, this is like Faraziel has been a very active UD runner on different games, and he totally deserves the shout out. So back on Shovel Knight, we see the runners starting to platform in the plane of justice here. So we play as Shovel Knight with our nice blue armor and our shovel. We're going to go through about 10 levels plus the Enchantress Tower, and we have a few checkpoints here and there, as you can see on the player screens, triggering the first one here, and that is going to be very important, because first, obviously, what's going to matter the most is the platforming. Second, and very important, is the gold and the money collection, because you are going to need that. This is a many person, so you can buy whatever magic and whatever HP upgrade you'd like, and they are probably going to show off some different armors as well. And the route is going to be predominant for the time you're going to get, but the riskier and the faster the route, the more likely you are to die, especially in the boss rush, and dying at any point in this game is very, very dramatic.
Yes, if you broke a checkpoint, you're going to get sent back quite a ways, and even if you didn't, your gold is going to go flying, and if it's in a place that you can't reach it, you're going to need to make up that gold somewhere else, because you've probably got some route set up, and you've got a certain amount of gold along the way that you're planning on having to purchase the items that you're counting on having. And when you get off script there, it is incredibly hard to improvise, doing the rest of the run without a key item, like, without the dust knuckles or something. It would totally change multiple levels in ways that really wouldn't work. We got some bubble wrap going up. Melwest having a bit of trouble executing on it. Some players have gone for this previously and stopped due to the difficulty of it and the relatively small amount of time it saves. I think with that one failure to get it going, Melwest maybe comes out even at best, but for now he holds on to the lead heading into the Black Knight. And so getting back to gold, are some places where if you really need gold, you can some detours to pick some up, and hopefully the players are aware of this, but it is a really big time loss. So count for double or triple in this game. Black Knight down for Melwest. We'll see how the shovel canceling technique goes for some of these other players, just trying to lock him down in the corner. Barramondo gets it, Ghost Death gets it.
That's very nice. Black Knight escapes a little bit on Barramondo's fight, but you know, when you get the shovel cancel, that's not perfect. Sometimes the Black Knight will retaliate, but it doesn't cost too much time. Zigugu doing a fantastic job as well. Melwest entering the village just to leave it soon after and getting to the Pridemore Keep, the first level with an actual knight boss, and everybody is starting with that level because it's certainly the easiest of the bunch, and the order doesn't matter too much because it's fairly rare to get a weapon on the specific level you're at, except for later on in the run. So you just want to collect money. We are going to see a lot of checkpoints broken, and so far it's a very nice tight execution from Melwest and from everybody. As soon as I say that, obviously Melwest takes a hit, but it doesn't matter too much.
There are some parts here where you can die, mostly later on when you get to the lava and the books, that whole section. You can start to worry a little more about deaths, but until then, it's not going to be too much of a problem. So players are going to be opting to break their checkpoints here, I think, more than many other places. In particular, I saw Melwest actually going out of his way to break some blocks on the screen with the leap of faith, actually. He opted not to test his faith whatsoever. He played it safe and broke some blocks, used the time to extra gold. So I don't know what he's got on his mind in terms of as to why he did that. If he really is trying to, you know, not break a certain check and make up the gold there, or if it's just a sign that he's switching to something a little more safer and consistent, which makes sense if you are able to make that kind of switch when you're in his position ahead by 90 points. You would want to just defend that position. Certainly not the easiest thing to change your strats in a race, but if anyone could, I think maybe it would be Melwest, who is getting into the scary part of the stage now, waiting for the lava with these book platforms. And if you do it right, you kind of don't have to stop here on this tiny little hesitation, and well executed.
Yeah, that was great. We've seen early in the UD players die here. Everybody took the pace and is actually doing great on that specific screen. So it's been a while since we've seen players die on Pridemore Keep. Oh, Barramondo, as soon as I say that, obviously scaring me a lot, but doing great. And Melwest, who's a fantastic kill on the King Knight fight. So he has an entire boss fight lead over Ghost Death and Barramondo.
We'll see how this boss fight goes for Ghost Death. They're going to be hard-pressed to catch Melwest on this boss fight. His execution was superb. Ghost Death doing a really good job, actually. He's getting the shovel case, staying in front of King Knight as he jumps towards you.
Nice.
Once you get hit, yeah, that was a really solid run. But once you get hit, as we saw in the second phase for Ghost Death, you start flashing, and that means you're probably not going to be attacking and bouncing off of King Knight, and he'll just walk through you to the other side, and you get broken out of this pattern that you're trying desperately to hold. We're seeing lots of people in. On top of that, get a double, triple pogo hits on the high jump is very tricky. We're actually seeing a death there on the King Knight fight from Ziguigui, so really not looking too good for him. He's quite good at these earlier stages in Shovel Knight. It's the later ones that he normally struggles with. Unfortunate to see that, but Melwest and Ghost Death both looking really strong in their boss fights.
Leech Yard is an interesting level. We are going to see some of the more interesting checkpoints to break, but obviously that means taking a significant higher risk, and it is the first level featuring the spikes and things that can instantly kill you. So being crushed between those moving platforms, we can see on Melwest's screen. and I do hope everything is going to be okay. Mel West making good progress so far, and we can see the levels being pitch black due to lack of good weather, and it's actually the lightning that just light up your way. But when you're speedrunning the game, that doesn't matter too much. You know exactly where are the important parts of the level. Good juggling with the skeleton head to keep on going, and that was just having good execution and tight timing between those shovel and the jumps. And I'm still interested in to see what route they're going for there.
I'm not sure. Generally, Mel West has taken some pretty aggressive routes with health and safety. Has been willing to throw caution to the wind. But we might be seeing different Mel West. It's been a while since he's competed in a race, so I've seen him do a couple things so far that seem to indicate an eye towards safety and consistency over the all-out stuff. And I don't know. I am just as curious to find out what route he's going to be taking, as well as all of these other players. We can see the game over screen, not the game over screen, but the screen for Ziguigui, so very unfortunate for him, already racking up 2 deaths. As Mel West approaches the Spectre Knight fight, there's a bit of RNG going on with where Spectre Knight appears after the scythe throw. So we'll see, he is going to get the good RNG on the left side after taking that hit, so he racks up some hits in the corner. And we'll see if he's able to capitalize on this in just a little bit.
Nice juggle
really
there.
Yeah, that is very hard to jump up and get the second one afterwards, so solid fight for Mel West.
Ziguigui got trolled a little bit by a frog. He tried to jump on and failed, and then on the second jump the frog goes all lightning and you cannot touch it, or it damages you, and so I lost 2.5 HP just on a single moving frog, but still made it past the screen. Lost a lot of time, and they are going to have a lot of trouble catching up with Barramundo, Ghostdeath and Mel West. And Barramundo going for the juggle as well and having a good start of the fight. Nice RNG as well. And they should be done. One final hit for Barramundo, and they passed Ghostdeath on that single fight.
Ghostdeath racks up 8 hits in the top right corner. I was going to say he's still got kind of a long way to go on this fight, but then just finds every hit he needs in that top right corner to finish off and keep pace with Barramundo. Both players still have a dream sequence to go with. West is done with. Opportunity to pick up some money. The enemies drop quite a bit of money sequence, but you're also wasting time, because if you die, you end the sequence just a little first. So there's kind of a trade-off to be made with, do I kill myself as fast as possible to save time, or do I use this time to collect some extra money? Or both. It seems most players seem to just kind of sloppily kill enemies for gold, and the hits they take along the way will eventually lead to a death. Ghostdeath seemed to be fighting pretty hard to maintain his health and pick up as much gold as he can, so he is leaning towards getting as much money as he can. Barramundo going for a pogo to try to catch Shield Knight really high in the air. That is something you can go for, but he didn't quite get it, so he goes high, she goes low. And either way, not too big a difference in time saved or gained, but it does give us a little insight into the mindset of the players, and we do see now that Ghostdeath has picked up 2,000 more gold than Barramundo.
So Mel West went into a shopping spree in town and bought only the HP. Actually, did not get the Chaos Orb, did not get the Flame Wand, and just has his 6 HP. Which is weird. Like, we've seen that, but I was expecting a very different thing from Mel West. Doesn't mean he's wrong, just mean I'm surprised. So on Barramundo's screen we can see they're buying the Chaos Orb, so does Ghostdeath. Very convenient item for the boss fights, going to save a lot of time in different places. And both of them are going to buy to gain at least 1 extra HP and maybe buy a second one. Ghostdeath using his 2k extra to buy some more mana. Sounds smart, because if you're not sure with your magic usage, that could prove to be very useful.
Mel West with the damage boost turning around and going through that enemy. The Dust Knuckles that you'll purchase pretty soon here in the Lost City will let you do that kind of thing whenever you want, as long as you've got the mana, like you said. It hits an enemy and moves you forward inside them, so that while they're flashing with their temporary invulnerability or the opposite of it or whatever it is, you can't walk through them without getting hit as long as you're hitting them. And so the Dust Knuckles will sort of chain into each other, carry you through enemies in those situations, and it's one of the reasons why they're such an important pickup, and the players out of their way to have enough gold to purchase them. Barramondo's got just under 3,000 rather, and they cost 1,000, so as long as he gets no deaths, he's going to be fine. Ghost Death overshooting it by a little bit, and Melwest, of course, already has them with 2,000 gold to spare because he saved it on that Chaos Orb, like he said. In terms of why not pick up either the Flame Wand or the Chaos Orb, I'm not sure, because there's a resource in your mana that you're just not using when you aren't using either of those. The Dust Knuckles aren't going to get you too much in many boss fights. Certainly they have their place in them, but like Mole Knight coming up, not going to do too much, so you're just kind of sitting on this magic that's not anything. Yeah. Some extra hits.
The Chaos Orb deals quite a lot of damage on the Mole Knight fight, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's just for safety, not to have to break too many checkpoints. He breaks this one though, because it's very juicy. Depending on the difficulty, I guess, the devs put some different values into different checkpoints. If a checkpoint is worth more or less, depending on the gem that appears when you pass it. And that can make a big difference. Mel was taking the time to set them up for that specific skip, because we've seen, it's like the stairs at the start of the Mario Brothers 8-4 level. Like, if you go too fast, you are going to miss the last step and fall to your death. So going slow sounds pretty smart. The Mole Knight fight is all about shovel cancelling while you're stuck between the wall and the knight, and it's done already. So yeah, Melwest apparently doesn't need the Chaos Orb at all for the fight.
Very, very good fights. Orb, Ghost Death, and Barramondo are quite close to each other. It is Melwest who holds on to the lead. Ziguigui is bouncing back a little bit from some of those deaths. They weren't super costly deaths. You can take some really bad ones, especially with a broken checked in the wrong place. So good to see that they're holding on. I thought he was going to go to the top road there, but these gems here in the bottom road, he's going for both. He's getting greedy. The beetle's going. It will wait for him. He's not going to miss his ride, so he is going to get whatever gold he needs here and is going to be able to move on. Melwest heading into the Explodatorium, and Barramondo setting up and gets the skip at the end of the final beetle ride here. We'll see what kind of Mole Knight fight he has.
Explodatorium is a scary level. So far it goes well for Melwest, that goes for the most aggressive cycles and gets them. We might see the best race time, like getting past Plague Knight of all the runs. Like, I'm not counting the chicken before the edge, but like, so far they're not stopping for anything and gets the small pixel that saves them, and I was saying that. So once again, it's not done. Well, it's not done, but Shovel Knight, especially later in the run, can go south very, very quickly, because they scale Mole Knight pretty well with the Chaos Orb, so does Barramondo, and they will both move on to the Explodatorium and trying to catch up with Melwest that never stops apparently.
Yeah, he is heading through sections that most players take very cautiously. Tons of hesitation. Wait for this thing, wait for that thing, wait for this thing. And he waited for nothing through both of those sections. He is looking great. And, the only thing that slowed him down a little bit was even just missing the start of the inertia race, perhaps. And even then, it wasn't nearly as drastic as it seemed on stream. He is going to be our first place finisher, pretty sure. It's just a question of how much, and it's a question of will he be able to repeat this performance, and especially against stronger opponents in grand finals. That is what will remain to be seen. The other players are all going to do their best to catch up and
Oh,
score as many points as they can.
Melrose got tripped up by the fairies for a little bit there. Nobody is ever coming to the skip anymore. Like it's been practiced by the runners. Runners have been doing the skip on that specific screen for a while, and everybody seems to agree that it's not worth the effort. Apparently, it's going to be way too risky and cost you way too much time if you miss it. So just everybody is playing safe there, and once again, that shows that the UD community has, got better at all the games and racing all those games, and at the level you're expecting for someone that's going for all 10 games in a row. You might see some different strats for like the best runners in the world on Shovel Knight, but those guys picked up the game fairly recently and had to work on 10 different games, as Plague Knight is weirdly jumping with that pop like stuck into the air, and that's actually causing some trouble for Mal West, but finally gets the kill.
He missed like 3 or 4 hits because of that pot. That was pretty ridiculous. I liked his approach early on in the fight, though. He was like, he wasn't just swinging away with the shovel. He was actually, you could clearly see that he was measuring when he attacked each time. He saw a projectile being thrown in the air, and he hesitated so that his attack would knock it back instead of him getting hit, which is something that Shovel Knight can do to many projectiles in this game. Sometimes you can actually deal damage with it, but I find more often it ends up being just a defense maneuver. But people tend to trade hits a lot with Plague Knight, and you can't do damage when you're getting knocked back from taking a hit, and chances are he's going to run away afterwards. So you can lose quite a bit of time trying to trade hits. So I liked Mel West's approach there. Got away from him a little bit with some of the weird placement going on later in the fight, but nice from Barramondo getting up into the block here. Ghost Death not quite getting it. So Barramondo is going to pull ahead here as Ghost Death has to snake back and forth through this section to 8 seconds or something comparatively, and Mal West starting
stuck here. Finally makes it.
All right, he did get held up in I always forget what it is. The Iron Whale is where he is.
Yeah, it's a good level. Lots of spikes, lots of pits, and you're underwater. But as soon as you learn how to deal with all those, you'll do just fine. You need the Chaos Orb for a lot of strats here, so I wonder what Melis is going to do, because once again they did not stop to buy that. I'm not sure if they considered the item to be not worth their time, or if the money situation is just safer doing what they're doing. They're doing with a very aggressive strat, working on the spikes during iframes there, but it worked well for them.
Plague Knight fight, fantastic. Armando, Ghost Death, actually also pretty good, quite as good, but doing his best to keep pace with Barramondo, who's been pulling away. Mel West now onto the anglerfish chase section. The chase part's not really the hard part. A lot of players will purposely bounce off of the fish whenever they can. I don't know why players exactly opt to do this rather than jump over them or whatever, but that just seems to be how things work out. 4 hits with Dust Knuckles is not the easiest thing to do. Nice.
Yeah, this was just textbook kill on the angular fish. It, like you said, just getting the hits is not easy at all, but just starting with the charge shovel and getting everything the way West did is actually pretty tricky. We've seen a lot of runners going for the one cycle there and actually missing by 1 hit or 2, so it just shows how hard the trick is.
A death from Zagugui in the Explodatorium. I don't think it was too far back. I feel like I should be seeing that gold scroll on screen at any moment now, and there it is, dying here at this pretty tricky stair on fire section. We can take a look at some of the other players and see Saline DeMars and LF are both also in the Iron Whale. Vandal a little ways back, fighting Mole Knight. Super Link God also on the Explodatorium in the Plague Knight fight. And a lot of players doing pretty well in Shovel Knight, especially compared to some of their performances in some of the other games today. Mal West is rocketing towards the end of the Iron Whale, going to be getting to the Treasure Knight fight. And again, it's not going to have that Chaos Orb, so it's going to have to work with the shovel only to find all the hits he needs here.
So Treasure Knight is one of the bosses that, weirdly enough, killed some players last tournament. The boss deals a lot of damage, so if you don't have the correct rhythm with your shovel canceling, you are going to take a lot of hits. And surely enough, Melwest took over half of his HP of damage, but the boss did not deal damage fast enough, and they're dead already. So pretty good kill for Melwest. Lots of gold in hand. I'm not sure if they are going to need it for anything but the mobile gear and the proper dagger, so we'll see. Bermundo getting the first cycle on the angular fish. We've said how hard it was for Melwest, so same boat for Bermundo, very well done. And they're just going to make their way as fast as possible toward the boss, but Melwest just has like a half level of worth of lead.
Goes Death onto the Anglerfish, going with mostly charged slashes here. We'll see if he's able to find all the damage he needs. So he's going to be able to move on. Barramondo using the Dust Knuckles on that Anchor Knight guy, whoever he is. He tends to move back, try to get away from you, so your Dust Knuckles forwards just kind of locks him into a pattern, nicely landing on that anchor, but not going to be going for any of the... Ooh, okay, the knockback is going to get onto the rising anchor, so he's going to be okay. Not going for any of the really risky skips on those anchors, but Ghost Death going for that little skip there, hitting the pile of rock, I guess it is, with the gems in it, hitting it off the ceiling and pogoing off of it before it gets too far away is pretty tricky and saves not much time, but you can kind of go for it almost for free. So players do, and he gets moving up. One of the hardest levels in the run. There's a lot going on, and finds a pogo to get up to this platform a little early. It's not the easiest thing to pogo off an enemy that is so low to the ground like that, but he gets it.
Wow,
and running into a lot of enemies here.
The checkpoints is right there, so they're good, but wow, they got stuck, and like Melwest is just showing good reaction overall. They're going maybe to die intentionally here so they can get all their HP back up. Once again, good reaction from Melwest when they are encountering like round divergence or just strat not working for them. They adapt pretty quickly, and overall they did not have to do that too much, but reacting well and going to commit suicide there was probably the good decision. Once again, like, the level is not going so well for them, but they have enough of a lead to make it work. Berramondo in the dream sequence, while Ghost Death is against the boss gets destroyed completely by the Chaos Orb. Like, it's just not even funny for them, and Zigwigwi is half a level behind Ghost Death, so far Melwest having a nice lead. Not going for the trick to get up on the platform there. I know they practice for it, but probably deemed that not to be worth the time spent in a run to go for that, and just failing there, they're going too aggressively on the jump. They're soon on the Propeller Dagger area, and that's where the run switch a little bit in rhythm. Like before, Shovel Knight was just slowly walking and jumping, and with a Propeller Dagger that's going to change soon.
The Dust Knuckles are similar in that it's like you hit your special button and you're getting a speed boost sideways, but you're limited to enemies and blocks to use it. But whereas Propeller Dagger you can use wherever, and it will carry you further and move you a little faster. And it's also going to like extend your hitbox a little bit. So for some of these forms and these fans, you can actually use it to prevent you from getting pushed down between gaps. Entering into a really scary room now is Melwest with the triple Jawas. He's done with 2. He's pausing to find these charge slashes, and he gets hit by that cannonball off screen, so he gets stuck in a situation where he's forced to wait and plays it very cautiously, charging up again to take out the 3rd Jawa. So, and not the smoothest room, but he got through it, and that is very important. Get through it. We'll see how it goes for some of the other players. Mondo using those Chaos Orbs a little on this flying machine mini boss. He's going to stop to collect some money because he does need just a little bit more. The propeller dagger is coming up. It costs 4,000, and perhaps he was a little worried about just how much money there is in the gems on the way to the propeller dagger. So he is going to be a little cautious, get what he needs to make sure that he's able to pick up this crucial item.
I was feeling like the Melwest lead was a little bit bigger than it actually is. The level did not go so well for Melwest, and Bermondo is actually catching up with a fantastic flying machine there, so we'll see. It's going to go down to propeller dagger usage for all those players, because that's going to save a lot of time. Having like the correct strats on those rooms, like the one Melwest just passed, is going to save a lot of time. Those wind sections have some tricky jumps and some tricky tricks. We'll see if that goes well. First room in one cycle for Melwest, very well. And the second one killed a lot of all runners during the entire UD, because you want to get the daggers correctly, but very, very nicely done from Melwest, not even using the 3 swings we've seen from most players.
Yeah, not sure if he's trying to preserve any magic. The fight here against Propeller Knight, he doesn't have the anchor. Some players like to put up just mostly for... he doesn't have the Chaos Orb, but Chaos Orb not a big influence on this fight. It's mostly about, oh, he tries to get some Propeller Dagger hits, but he goes right and the boss goes left. So he is not going to be able to get those extra hits. And with one more charge in Pogo, he is going to be able to clean that up. A very solid fight. Can't ask for too much more, though. Melwest tends to ask for a lot, so maybe he was hoping to get some of those Propeller Dagger chained hits following the boss upwards. Maybe he's going to be a little sad that he missed it, but he should be pretty happy with that fight.
Bermondo, couple of rooms behind Melwest. Melwest probably lost a lot of time compared to his PB on the Flaying Machine. I'm not sure though. 29 minutes here is fantastic. This is certainly a very, very solid pace. About 50 minutes, I'd say. And that's exactly where you want to be to rack up as many points as possible on Shovel Knight. Even though Melwest overall doesn't really need it. They're sitting 91 points ahead of Super Lingard. The close battle is between Super Lingard, Ghostess and Bermondo. It doesn't matter too much as long as you're top 4 to qualify for the Grand Finals, but having as good of a score as you can is going to be very significant for them, because they want to sit as high as they can starting in the Grand Final. Just like morally, you want to have confidence that you can get up there. So obviously all the tournaments are independent, so that your score you're getting right now will not have any influence next week, but still, knowing that you can get top 2 above those 4 might prove to be a nice mental edge.
Bermondo, with 1.5 pips of health left at the end of the Propeller Knight fight, was cutting it a little close, but he has successfully defeated him and is going to be moving on. Melwest has the mobile gear now, and an extra $2,000 or so. We'll see how much health he opts to pick up at the end of the game, if at all. Maybe he'll with the 6 for now. He seems confident enough without the Chaos Orb. Who knows what else he's confident enough to go without, as he's riding through the later sections of the Clock Tower. Bermondo just starting Ghost Death into the Propeller Knight fight. We'll see how this goes for him. He did get the anchor, so this fight's going to be a little different for him. He's not going to be too concerned about anything fancy on this second phase here when he goes up into the air, because he's going to be able to get these nice juicy hits, and just needs 2 more. He's going to go ahead and wait for them on the right side of the screen. Finds it.
I love the anchor. It's just such a convenient item. I'm a bit sad that the runners actually figured out that it's not worth taking, because it's just a convenient arc. Like being able to hit something above your head is this is the only way to do so in Shovel Knight, and it's pretty useful in a couple of places. But it's a bit slower. It's just for safety. But Ghost Death usually in games go for safeties that are fast, and I like his style. I like the way he plays, and in Shovel Knight there's no big mistake so far for them, just a little bit overall slower compared to Barramundo and Melwest, but not by much. They're keeping pace, entering the clock tower about a minute and a half behind Melwest.
Which is a pretty good, one of the strongest Shovel Knight competitors in the UD. Certainly among the people who are competing in all 10s. I'm pretty sure we got Explode Your Ear competing. And Ghost Death slipped into a gap. He kind of had he caught on the edge of something that made me think he'd be okay, but he slipped off of it. So he is gonna get death there. That is a time loss.
They died like just before the checkpoint, and sadly, like, this is one of the biggest checkpoints in the game. The start of the clock tower is going to set Ghost Death almost 1 minute back, and they will need to go all the way around again and find their gold, and they're probably needed because they want to buy the mobile gear again still.
Melwest missed the charge slash into the fight, but he gets the reflect on the missile. You don't see that too often. I like that. I don't know if he probably went for that intentionally, so nice heads up there at the end of the Tinker Knight fight, working from a pretty bad mistake. Once you fall down on Tinker Knight, unless you've got that anchor, you don't really have any ways to get up and damage him without him providing you a way to get up there. So you're stuck waiting, basically, if you don't get those last few hits you need. West doing a pretty good job of dodging that as best he can as he moves on to the stranded ship. A very difficult ice level, because it is an ice level. That's, it comes with the territory. Unfortunately, taking a moment there to bait out one of these adorable-looking wolves that run around on the ice. Adorable though they may be, they are quite annoying to deal with.
Yeah, every single enemy in Shovel Knight is going to knock you around, push you into pits if possible, and they're all like pretty difficult to deal with, although most of them are pretty adorable. Melwest uses a lot of his different weapons, like he switches it pretty fast between Dust Knuckles and the other, but Dust Knuckles are Propeller Dagger are the most useful for them. They don't have the Chaos Orb, they don't have to bother with that, and they do not have, they do have the mobile gear that they use like on some very specific spots. The only big reason we are getting the mobile gear is for the Tinker Knight fight, the first phase. That's pretty much it, and we kinda use it because we can on a couple of spots, but it's not where it shines the most.
Yeah, it can be used to a full heart damage on Tinker Knight that we saw a couple times from both Melwest. Pretty tricky to use it there. It sneaks in a hit or two, Enchantress in some cases. So once you have it, there are some clever ways you can use it, but they're really not nearly as impactful as that Tinker Knight fight. Melwest now on the platform in the stranded ship. I think is coming on the part where the anchor, these guys on the ladder here, this is where you would like to have an anchor, otherwise you're going to have to damage boost. And he's down to 3.5 hits, has a health refill coming up fairly soon, so he's going to be okay, I'm pretty sure. We got a Propeller Knight fight from Guigui. This is Flying Machine is a level he's struggled with more than once in the past. We'll see if he's able to finish pretty strong there. He's going for some Propeller Dagger hits on the side, and he gets knocked into the pit.
And
so he's going to go back so far.
He's going to stop
that's
there.
It. He's done. He is out. He is.
I totally understand the frustration. This is my biggest concern with Shovel Knight, is that it's a frustrating game. Everything is pretty slow paced, and once you die, the game encourages you to destroy the checkpoints, but if you die, you're going to be set back so far behind. It can get pretty annoying. So the Guigui is going to stop here. They had a good rodeo in the entire UD6. This is the final tournament that's open to anyone, and probably the final tournament for the Guigui. But once again, big shout out to them because they help a lot organizing things, and actually they're fantastic runners. Their player card shows just a good solid 9th place in races and overall 10th place in the grind leaderboard, so they had a good time with UD6, but maybe it's time for it to end there, sadly, on a Propeller Knight death. Meanwhile, LF is making good progress on the stranded ship, not too far behind Melwest, Ghostdeath, and Bermondo. Ghostdeath is going to maybe go back. Nope, not even starting the stranded ship right now. I was wondering if they would go to the to town, buy some extra HP.
It's what I'm wondering about. West here is leaving the meal ticket behind, so I'm pretty sure he is not. I'm pretty sure he is moving on with the 6 health for the rest of the game. He's got $10,000 and nothing he wants to spend it on. He's going to be charging forwards as Baramonto waits for Polar Knight to charge forwards into him. Chaos Orbs do a lot of work in this fight as I fight. Just the speed at which Polar Knight travels across the screen nicely matches with the Chaos Orb if you can line it up. It is pretty tricky to get the Chaos Orb to bounce and come back right when the charge happens, so he was able to get some damage, not the super god damage that you can get whenever everything goes well, but does get a pretty good Polar Knight fight, keeping ahead of Ghostdeath, who is making their way through towards the end of the stranded ship. LF also now on screen and is also on the stranded ship. Not sure what their loadout is, if we see if an anchor or a Chaos Orb or what. But they've got the Conjurer's Coat, likely the Charge Slash, and 6 health, so a pretty comparable route to some of the other players so far, at least, as he is getting ready for this mobile gear ride. And Melwest is starting the Tower of Fate.
Tower of Fate, the Enchantress levels, it's a mashup of everything you've seen so far, all the different enemies, and a lot of new deadly traps, as there was a Mario Brother world type of moving castle things, and that's, you know, happen to be there on a lot of different platformers, but usually those will crush you to death, so you try to avoid skipping too many cycles, but skipping cycles obviously save time. Very good knowledge of the game, once again shown by Melwest. Every single skip is actually working for them, and we are not yet at 40 minutes, and they will be soon done with the level. Next up we have the Black Knight refight. We are skipping the second refight with Black Knight. If you are fast enough, the enemies on the world map are not appearing, and you are skipping that second Black Knight fight, which actually saves a lot of time. So the devs actually stabilized the RNG and made it so it's convenient for the runners to go through the world map, so nice of them to help the speedrunners. Those final prop low dagger usage here to skip on the Jawa, and Melwest is on the final checkpoint here.
It's looking really strong. Baramondo joining him in the Tower of Fate. Ghostdeath still has a Polar Knight fight to go. LF already done with the Polar Knight fight. We can see that Baramondo took a detour to stock up on the health. He's got the full... No, he's got 9 health, sorry. It's something that a lot of players like to opt for at the end game, but not LF. He is also rolling with the 6 hits, and Ghostdeath finds that Polar Knight kill as Melwest triggers the transformation of Black Knight 3, and he's down on the ground waiting for him to come down. He would have rather been up there getting those propeller dagger hits, but with a charge pogo and another charge, he manages to clean up that fight very nicely. Going to be moving on to the next level, showing no signs of slowing down.
40 minutes and a half in. I wonder how that compares to his PB. He had a couple of tough levels, especially the Flame Machine, but still, that's very good progress for them. And this is the most important level, probably, of the entire game. That's where the boss rush is sitting at the end, and the level is not too bad compared to the boss rush, but still, dying in there could cost a lot of time, so you still have to be very careful with your movement, try not to hit the spikes, and be overall very precise. Melwest is like actually being very careful on some specific spots, and that would tell how hard some of those jumps are. And once again, if you want to learn a speedrun, actually watching some of the various PBs and some race strats could show you exactly where you need to put some more practice. And that room, especially seeing Melwest move slowly like that, shows that it's not guaranteed that you'd pass in one piece. So very nice of them. And the skip here, using the mobile platform to get up there, and then like using the flying, the propeller dagger to pass by those Jawas, very nicely done. And careful with that ladder, you don't want to let it go too early.
Yeah, there's a jump you want to be ladder. Basically, you're avoiding the little bit of startup that Shovel Knight has when he starts walking, and you can do that by jumping, which gets you up to max speed immediately. But if you jump soon, when you're trying to jump at the top of a level, that's the input to fall. And because the screen starts scrolling and it enters this auto-scroller state, instead of screen transitioning down, it's a death plane. So you do die if you fall off that ladder. It has happened in a race before, and it's pretty bad, especially when you don't have too much of a reason to really start hustling at the start of an auto-scroller section. So just don't jump the gun on that button press and you'll be fine. Black Knight fight done for Barramundo. LF also now setting up for his. He's got the pogos up high. The meteor knocks him out of it, but he's got the anchors to clean up. So there's another good usage of that safety anchor item.
Because this is quite far behind now, even compared to LF Barramundo, and especially compared to Mal West. I wonder how happy they're going to be with their Shovel Knight run. You never know. Some games are the biggest hurdle for some runners, and some are way better for them. So compared to his PB though, Ghost has a very good 54-minute PB, 57 best race time. And since everybody else is going so far, I wonder where we are sitting. But Melwest started already the boss rush, Plague Knight in second. That's pretty nice for them because we know Polar Knight is going to be third. So that's going to be a good start. Propeller Dagger is done in first as well. So almost all the biggest threats are done. And they're going to have a nice time on the second half of the boss rush. And Barramundo.
No Chaos Orb though. Is drawing this fight out a little bit. He's having trouble. There's a couple times where, he's been just to the right and just below Mal West, and he hasn't had a Chaos Orb to throw at him.
I don't know with that no Chaos Orb strat. I like having one sub weapon, like either the Flame One or the Chaos Orb, because that could help you on some difficult times. But it's okay, and Melis is showing how good Shovel Knight is at throwing those projectiles back at the bosses. Like, full disclosure, I did not know you could throw the missiles at Tinker Knight using your shovel. Like, Shovel Knight is very good at deflecting projectiles. Turns out the shovel is maybe the best shield you can have.
Well, I mean, Shield Knight would have something to say about that, I think. I don't think Shovel Knight can be the best shovel and the shield. That's underselling her, I think, a little bit. So we'll walk that one back. But you're right, it is quite good at being defensive as offensive. It is perhaps an underutilized aspect of Shovel Knight when it comes to the players and speedruns. I mean, certainly the more, people who are going for the world record and stuff, using absolutely every part of the tool of the shovel to get the absolute fastest time. But here on the UD, I think some more work could be done in terms of reflecting projectiles, being a little more defensive and racking up some damage in the process. West again taking a moment to reflect a projectile back on Mole Knight. He's making a concerted effort to do it, and I think it's working out for him.
Yeah. Having only Tinker Knight and Treasure Knight, I would have switched immediately to the mobile gear, but they stayed on the Propeller Dagger, just switching at the last moment, I guess, for the boss fight. The Treasure Knight is dealing a lot of damage, but Melwest is just dealing damage faster. This is like the biggest DPS race we've seen. Once you have the Conjurer's Coat and everything going on, just dealing damage fast is what's going to save you the most.
LF and Barramundo joined Melwest in the boss rush. It is an incredibly long sequence, and a death will send you all the way back to the start, so it is probably the scariest you could take in UD. So far, Mel West has managed to avoid it with only one more hit left, and he goes for the falling slash to get it. He is now done with the boss rush. LF and Barramondo still fighting it out, still quite close to each other, and Ghost Death is up top, late into the Tower of Fate, going with Gip. He's waited to take out the Jawa, which seems maybe riskier than just skipping. Fighting it off screen on that tiny little platform was pretty risky, but he went for it and he got it, so he's into the auto-scroller section. Mel West continues to hold on to the lead, heading into the Enchantress fight, followed by Barramondo, who's got 4 boss fights left, then LF, who's got 5, and then Ghost Death, who still needs to complete this auto-scroller and then to the boss rush.
This is the final stretch for Mel West, 47 minutes and a half here in. This is a very, very solid time. We could see a sub 50, but not by much. And Barramondo and LF actually both are having a very, very good run. LF is not too far behind PB. His PB is 51.29, so that could be along those lines. Barramondo's PB is 51.34, so he's even better looking PB-wise. Mel West sadly died at the start of the level. We talked about that screen, and it's less surprising than it looks.
It is, yeah. It's like it should be so easy. Like there's no enemies on the screen. But like something about these blocks, the fact that it's not immediately apparent which order they're going to move. Like it's always the same order, but it's not the easiest thing to memorize when you've got so many other games to worry about. And then you've got these like blind jumps that you have no visual information. It's purely memorization based, and so if you're really trying to push with the propeller dagger and your dagger's out a little too late or something, you're a little lower than you thought, you can wind up straight in a pit, and it's a surprisingly big time loss going back. Forced waiting section. Here's the checkpoint that Mel West really wishes he had gotten. As F died in the boss rush, he is
we can see that
Polar
gold
Knights.
bag.
It's kind of tied with Ghost Death as Barramondo is on the final fight of his boss rush. So pretty unfortunate for LF. That is a massive time loss. He wasn't really in the running to compete in the grand finals, but he wanted to, at least put up a really good Shovel Knight run, and got away from him a little bit.
Yeah, he had a good pace, and dying at the end of the boss rush cost them a lot here. Barramondo, on the other hand, is going to be able to beat the game probably about like at 52 minutes, assuming he doesn't die here. Not trying to curse them. While Mel West finished the first phase of the Enchantress, is that the boat for the sub 50 has sailed when they died on the start of the Tower 3 there, but they're going to save Shield Knight, and the second phase is going to start. So big, huge mole hand Enchantress form that's going to dive at you, and using a good combination of Shield Knights supporting you and Propeller Dagger, you're going to kill them pretty quickly.
We have seen Shield Knight be a little bit uncooperative for some players sometimes, but looked like he got a nice pattern there, and he's going to get as many hits as he can here, and he went for more. Could have jumped off of Shield Knight, but he didn't want to rely on that, and instead followed Enchantress because he knew he did enough damage to get the dive, and with the follow-up, he is going to be finishing it or so on the timer. Fantastic time, going to be finishing well out in front of everyone else. Mondo heading into the final sequence here, jumping through the dark. Ghost Death on the Tinker Knight fight after this has 3 more to go. It's pretty close with LF, both of them about halfway through the boss rush.
Barramondo soon to be on the Enchantress 1 fight, using the mobile gear here to spare his legs and actually save time. You can Propeller Dagger your way into the boss, but that would use all your mana, and you kind of need mana to deal damage to the Enchantress, so it's all a trade, using the mobile gear here and the Chaos Orb to deal a lot of damage. You want to deal as much damage as you can during the dives of the Enchantress. Barramondo tries to dunk Chaos Orb onto the Enchantress, but sadly fails.
Boss rush down for Alien to Mars, who we've just subbed in here for the top left. So is going to be right there with some of our top finishers for this. Barramundo is throwing the Chaos Orbs, but Enchantress just a little bit too high to get hit by them. Wants this final hit, does get it. Was getting a little dodgy, down to 2 health at the end of that boss fight, but does get the all-important final hit. LF done with Tinker, or the first phase rather, still has King to go. Ghost Death facing off with Spectre Knight, and is not trying to go for any difficult juggles in the corner, just repelling him with some charge slashes, find some hits in the corner. 4 more, 3 more. Chaos Orb is going to find the last few hits, so he is on with the boss rush as well. Saline Demars waiting out this block section, and Barramundo getting ready to find the last hits on the final boss.
Alright, Shield Knight, do your magic. I've said the shovel was maybe better than the shield, but we still need you there. Wow, we don't need you doing blocking Shovel Knight though. And a couple of final hits, and Barramundo will be done. Very nice. Sub 53, about a minute behind PB. Still a very good run for Barramundo. LF is going to be disappointed having died on the boss rush, but that's how it is. They will still be able to beat the game way under 60 minutes, which is a very, very good feat in itself.
Enchantress, Saline Demars looking for. He's trapped himself inside here. I'm pretty sure he could clear that gap without the Propeller Dagger, but he is going to get some blocks to repair the damage that the Enchantress did, and correctly reads her dive towards him with the Chaos Orbs, finding the last few hits. He's going to be moving on to phase 2 now. LF dropping into the block dodging room. Ghost Death riding the mobile on the Bastion platforms here, looking for the entrance into the fight. There's the final checkpoint, dropping another gear. Saline Demars catches Shield Knight. Everyone pretty nicely grouped up here at the end of the game. Shovel Knight to be pretty drawn out between the players. The better players tend to rise further and further to the top, and so we get some really finishes. It's been a while since we've seen so many people in the final level, in the final fight all together. Saline Demars is going to get a couple hits here. Is going to get the nice Propeller Dagger chase, and waiting for the dive. He's far away, so yeah, he is. But Shield Knight there to help him out. Okay. And he's not gonna. Yeah, she moved all the way over to the far right, so he was not able to follow. He's doing a good job of dealing with this awkward situation.
Nice. Saline Demars. Good day for Saline Demars, except for Middle Slug. They barely missed the 17 minutes mark there, but they beat Inertia on time. Got a decent Cuphead, actually in 3rd place, so very good Cuphead. And beat Shovel Knight in under 55 minutes. Their PB is 53.48, so about a minute behind PB, which seems to be the trend for a lot of the runners there. LF died apparently on the Enchantress 1 while I was actually looking at Sandemar's fight, so has to go for the Enchantress 1 fight all over again.
Ghost Death also getting ready for the Enchantress 2 fight. The Propeller Dagger hits he needs, and is able to get the Pogo through the downwards attack, so he's going to be able to finish it up. Here, nice job on that fight as well. And it's down to the wire between LF and Enchantress 1. The Chaos Orbs are going to be able to pick up the kill. If he didn't have that projectile, it would literally be like a joust, or like when 2 samurai dash past each other, and then one of them spouts blood, and the other... But only after the first guy kneels down and you think, oh, he lost, but he's fine. Yeah, pretty dramatic finish. LF with an eye for the drama, and then lets us down a little bit on it. He is the one in the split for now. He is going to get that health refilled for this fight. We'll see how this goes. That bag that just says like, "Hey, remember that time you died?" is still taunting him here on screen. There's no reason to get it other than to get it off your screen, but. He seems like he's fine having it there for now.
trying to deal as much damage as possible to the Enchantress. Sadly, missed like a couple of hits to trigger the second phase, so he's going to use Shield Knight once again to get on top there, and the Enchantress is going to slam the ground. So LF playing safely, almost missed that, but gets a couple of hits, and one Popular Dagger hit will actually seal the deal. So LF beating the game in 56 minutes and 45 seconds. Still a very nice finish time, and Shovel Knight, to be honest, is one of the games where I'm the most impressed with our runners. It's been a hurdle, it's been super difficult to get there. The sub 60 minutes has been pushed to 65 to accommodate for the runners, for them to be able to beat the game during the journeys, because like it got so difficult. And on the last chance tournament today, a lot of runners are beating the game in less than 55 minutes and doing great with themselves. So I'm very, very pleased with what we're seeing today.
Yeah, fantastic Shovel Knight performance from everyone who was competing. I'll be to see how your ear did was racing off stream. I'm pretty sure. I assume the reason he joined the tournament today was for this game, kind of his namesake. In the UD listing, joined the UD before Shovel Knight was announced as game number 1. Was hoping to learn some new games, and then found out that game number 1 was the one that he already knew quite well. Has had the best Shovel Knight time in the UD since the season. We're seeing a bit of Super Link Gods final Enchantress 2 here. And we can take a look at the leaderboard. Sure that we're going to see the same 4 players on top. Pretty sure we're still going to see Mel West firmly in the number 1 position. And I'm honestly not sure how 2, 3, 4 will shake out. A little bit of movement, particularly Ghost Death and Super Link God have traded quite a bit, and we might see another one of those. But it will be kind of those 4, Super West, Ghost Death, and Barramondo, who have established themselves as the 4 who they move on to grand finals. There's 5 more left to play tomorrow, but it's looking like there's no one left who can challenge these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow, because the qualification is almost secured for all of them. So Melwa, Super Link God, Barramondo, and Ghost Death are going to enter the tourney tomorrow, like super confident, and it's just going to be a practice round for next week. So the Andes Nitrals 2, DKC, Spectrable, and Eye of Sorrow, they're going to see how well they're performing, and maybe it's going to be a nice benchmark to see what games they're supposed to practice on next week. Oh, we actually have one final runner that's still running on Shovel Knight, Vandal. At the Tower 1, 60 minutes in, we are going to see them beat the game, and maybe not, apparently. I'm not sure what's happening.
Who were they?
And hello to the French casters. I would love to see the end of Vandal's run, but there is something happening, I'm sorry. But yeah, once again, we'd like to value all of the runners' performances, whether they're the best runners or not. Apparently, maybe we are having a tighter schedule on the French part, I'm not sure. So we are going to switch to the leaderboard, and maybe Vandal is going to be able to put up his time a little bit later on. So, Melwa, Super Link God, Barramondo, and Ghost Death, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Still pretty close between Super Link God, Barramondo, and Ghost Death. Depending, as long as they're still our top 4, which is probably the way it's going to go, it really matter who beats who, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, or if they manage to unseat Mel West somehow from this position. But it will still be fun to see how they compare against each other. Certainly, when grand finals roll around, we're going to be looking at their performances to get an idea of what they're going to be doing. And so we'll be taking a look at these results and comparing. So they want to put up the best results that they can. Sailing to Mars, able to finish Metal Slug, like you said, was very close. And if they did still be 100 points back, but like it's within the realm of possibility. There's some trick off coming up. We could see Spectre Ball have someone really implode the way it had for some past runners, including incredibly runners. manipulations and stuff going on in Aria of Sorrow can be very difficult. Sailing to Mars, if they had finished Metal Slug, they'd be in it. They'd have a chance. But as it stands, this 200-point gap is pretty much insurmountable across these remaining 4 games. So our last chance tournament is, I thought it was going to be a crazy meat grinder that was going to take in a whole bunch of hopeful fresh-faced runners and spit out 2 grizzled champions, and it's turned into something quite different. 4 people have seem to be quite comfortably walking away with their tickets into grand finals, but once they get there, the comfort is over. There are 6 incredibly strong runners waiting for them. But again, I am getting ahead of myself. This is still the first half of our last chance tournament. The second half is going to be tomorrow. So it's going to be the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 m. CEST. You have to wake up early, 8 a.m. if you're on the West Coast. But that's where you can tune into these players play the remaining 5 games of the decathlon.
So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to crunch the numbers a little bit, comparing the performances of all the 6 qualified and what we're seeing today with Melwest, Superlingot, Beremondo, and Ghozdust, to have a little projection of what's going to happen next week. Next week is going to be the grand finals, and for a lot of players, that's the actual biggest tourney, the actual things you want to win, because the live finals is on a very different setting, and there will be lots of different variables. You cannot adjust your seat the same way you can at home. You might not be as comfortable as you can. You are going to play live, so you are going to have a lot of noises, and everybody's going to want to talk with you and be your friend because you're awesome and you're the best speedrunner. I don't know, but it's going to be a very interesting one. So obviously, best of luck to all the runners that are going to join tomorrow, especially Sayandomos, LF, Vandal, and all the others that may or may not want to join the fun, because every runner in the UD are welcome. The UD is a good way to start and to get your feet into speedrunning, and it's not just about being the best. It's all about the community building, racing with some other people, and just having fun. So I do hope everybody finds something they were looking for tomorrow if they join in. And just as a viewer, be sure to be there tomorrow, because it's going to be just super fun to see Melwest, Superlingot, Beremondo, and Ghozdust. We haven't seen at all Melwest, Superlingot, and Beremondo during this season, so it's a pleasure to see them run live this weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out how everyone does. In grand finals, I want to see if Melwest continue to push towards this 2,000-point run that he's having through these 10 games. The first 5 have certainly put him on pace. Devil Tifa had a 1917, 1930, something like that in the July tournament. Currently the best decathlon in a race so far. Melwest could be challenging that. So even if our top 4 are likely decided, there's still a lot that remains to be seen from these players that I really want to see. So I'll have to wait, unfortunately, for tomorrow, for next week, for the 28th, for the live finals. It's going to be great. If you just can't wait, you need more speedrunning, you should stick around. And on Speed Gaming, there's stuff happening right now. We've got Ori Randomizer going on Speed Gaming 3, and I think that might be it that's happening right this second. But if you wait a little, their fall tournament has some qualifiers, then they're going to be on this channel, Speed Gaming, at 3:50. We finished up pretty early here, so there's probably going to be a bit of a gap. Stream will probably go down, post, come back in about 45 minutes, and that's where you'll find more speedrunning happening here.
Yeah, that's going to be very great. We also are going, probably myself and you, tuning to the best of NES final moments of the Big 20 currently happening. So you might Twitch is big, speedrunning is a big thing recently, so you can find a lot of those See you tomorrow, I guess, and we'll leave you with those final images of Vandal fighting in the boss rush. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. CST, 11 a.m. EDT. Have a good one.